Chapter 13:18. More than 7 million? The demon emperor's face twitched. It can't be? Are the demons brainless? Are they really going to kill the demons around them? The Phoenix Emperor rolled his eyes and said, "Wealth moves people's hearts and demons' hearts. With benefits before them, everyone wishes to be the lucky one. They'll try as long as there's a sliver of hope, but the price of trying is either death or injury. Let me ask you, when the killing blow is upon you, will you wait for your death or fight back?" Also, this so-called intelligent star wolf has appeared again, and the demon fox has reappeared. The root cause is also because of your imperial edict. A new round of chaos is about to happen. The demon emperor's expression was grim. This direction, and even the consequences, were already unquestionably inevitable. The other party's goal was to create chaos. As for his imperial edict, it was an indisputable fact that the other party was using it over and over again. No matter how he explained it, it was just a cover-up. It was a fact that could not be disputed. What the F***ck is this? This is F***king frustrating. The demon emperor was about to explode. This was obviously holding on to a weakness, and not letting go. It was going to be used until death. Yet the demon emperor did not have a good solution. "Just tell me what to do now," the demon emperor asked dejectedly. "The only solution now is to capture the demon fox as soon as possible." As for clarification, the Phoenix Emperor felt a headache coming on as well. Yin Yang's appearance was great news to the higher-ups. At least, they could roughly confirm this fellow's location, and the area he might have escaped to. It was unknown if this guy was intentionally provoking them, or what. But he was basically loitering around 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers away from the demon imperial city. He was neither too close nor too far away. But coupled with that ever-changing divine ability of his, it was still very hard to catch him. As for clarification, there was no way to clarify this matter. Could it be that the news of capturing the demon fox was fake? Or could it be that the demon fox that had appeared now was fake? These were all unrealistic methods. No matter how they clarified it now, the masses would not believe them. Everyone knew this very well. There was no need to fool themselves and embarrass themselves. The focus now shifted to another matter. All the demons had one thing in common: the higher-ups cheated. Or nothing will tolerate it. However, did the demon emperor's initial promise in the imperial edict still count? Would there be a reward for catching the demon fox? Who dared to say it didn't work? That was the demon emperor's edict. If it didn't work, wouldn't the spirit demon emperor lose his face? But if he admitted that it was effective, wouldn't that be the same as slapping himself in the face? Didn't you say you already caught him? Is it really the higher-ups who are cheating and fooling us? However, this was not the real headache for the Phoenix Emperor. The real headache was that the demons had started a new round of suspicions about the people around them. The fox demon had already been caught red-handed. Who would dare to say that there was a problem with the sea of demons? A new wave of internal strife was about to rise. And it could be imagined. The Phoenix Sovereign looked at the demon sovereign. She was speechless and felt extremely helpless. The source of all this was the imperial edict that this fellow had issued. The only thing we can do now is to capture Yin Yang in the quickest way possible. Only then can all the chaos be quelled. The Phoenix Emperor thought for a while and said helplessly, "Now that the people's anger has been established, there's no other way to curb it. But this fellow is too slippery. We can't do anything to his manifestation power. Later on, I'll start assigning men to force him to make another move. Right now, it's clear that the reason why he's making a series of moves right now is because our previous actions have greatly restricted his plans to return to the Xianhuang world. This is the last resort that he has to resort to. No matter how incredible his manifestation mystique is, it's still a huge pity that his true battle strength is insufficient." The Phoenix Emperor's gaze was solemn. "We can't treat this Yin Yang as an ordinary opponent anymore. We must treat him with caution, no matter how cautious we can be. The demon sovereigns of the various races are nearby. We have nothing to do anyway. Let them do their part this time. Brother Fox, I'm afraid you'll have to do it this time." The Fox Emperor frowned and said, "No problem. This started because of me. If I don't do anything, who will? Brother Peng, how about you and Brother Fox go together? Brother Fox is meticulous. Listen to him. All right. Crane Sovereign, you and Tiger Sovereign go together. You'll be the leader. Be careful. Yes. Eagle Sovereign, how about you and Panther Sovereign? No problem. The Phoenix Emperor gathered all the flying demons and demons on the ground. They formed pairs of them, before they were sent out separately. This time, the martial emperors of the various races were no longer fighting alone, as they had been in the past. Not only were the two sovereigns accompanying them, but the experts of the various races under their command were also accompanying them. Once they were sent out, experts from all directions were spread out like stars in the sky. An inescapable net was swiftly formed. Whether we can capture Yin Yang or not, it's a matter of life and death for the demon race. It's either we succeed or we die. The Phoenix Empress had directly defined this as a matter of life and death. Although there were many demon emperors who disapproved of this, they did not dare to treat it lightly after seeing how serious the Phoenix Empress was about this matter. Then, the Phoenix Emperor looked at the demon sovereign and said, "We have to remove Brother Fox's worries first. Brother Fox's child's soul should be restored first." The Fox Emperor's eyes lit up at once. The demon sovereign thought about it and said, "That's how it should be." Yin Yang, who was the center of attention, could clearly feel that the space he could move about in was being squeezed. A radius of 10,000 miles seemed to have formed an enclosed space that was shrinking bit by bit. The sky and the ground seemed to be searching towards the center point. When he had gone out to move about previously, he had revealed himself to look for traces of the resourceful celestial wolf and fox demon. Due to the unforeseen circumstances and the unexpected turn of events, he had managed to escape easily. However, if he wanted to go out and stir up trouble now, a Saint Lord would descend upon him as long as there was a slight delay. If it were not for Yin Yang's impressive art of transformation and Emmy's forceful concealment of Yin Yang's aura, Yin Yang would have died many times over. In spite of this, he had to go out to move about in order to achieve his goal. Even though he was trembling with fear each time, he still tried again and again. It was like taking chestnuts out of a fire, dancing on the tip of a knife. The level of danger that Yin Yang caused each time he went out made Tunton and the other Saint Lords of the feline clan break out in cold sweat. The few elders of the feline clan had long come to a consensus. Each time Yin Yang went out, there was a high possibility that he would die outside and never come back. Despite knowing this, there was nothing they could do to help. Fortunately, each time he went out, it was more daunting than dangerous. They could see Yin Yang's silhouette each time he returned, but they also saw that Yin Yang was getting more and more exhausted each time. Even with the ever-changing manifestation ability, Yin Yang dared not let himself be fixed in one spot. If he was trapped within a certain area, Yin Yang was certain that the demon race would have a way to completely imprison him and annihilate him in an instant. When he was in Tianxian continent, Mr. Nian could set up a formation to restrict his transformation and seal off his brothers. Could it be that the demon race, which had been passed down for millions of years, and the Saint Lords, did not have such a method? Although it was said that as his cultivation increased, it would be more difficult to control himself. However, there were still things like formations that could keep him in check. There was no such thing as an invincible cultivation method or arcane skill in this world. There were only invincible experts. When Yin Yang appeared once again as a member of the Fox clan, he was almost scared out of his wits when he saw those who had come to capture him. Flustered, he could not help but tremble in fear. Almost as soon as he appeared, the lean silhouette of the Fox Emperor appeared hundreds of feet in front of him. Two cold, electrifying gazes shot towards him from afar. Yin Yang was horrified, but he was still quick to react. He burrowed into the ground with a whoosh and switched to his water manifestation, seeping in quickly. He then split into 3 clones, turning into wind and cloud as they went their separate ways. Reality had proven that Yin Yang's response was not just for show. The spot where he had just appeared was completely sealed almost at the same time. The entire space turned into dust with a loud boom. If Yin Yang had been slightly slower, the best outcome would have been to preserve his primordial spirit. But his physical body would not have been spared from disintegration. The Fox Emperor's cold voice hollered. Yun Yang, come out now. I'm not coming out. Yun Yang, who was quick to react, was already nowhere to be seen. Indeed, he was in a panic, running for his life with all his manifestation powers. For a moment, he was unsure where his clones had gone. All in all, if any of his clones could escape, he would have escaped. The Fox Emperor's voice drifted over slowly. I bear no ill will. I know you're from the bound of universe, and I know your identity. I can let bygones be bygones for everything you've done. After all, we're on different sides. Whatever you do to the demon race is within reason. There's no hatred to speak of. However, when I saw you the other day, you must have a lot of ethereal amethysts on you. I'm in urgent need of ethereal amethysts to save my son's life. The voice faded into the distance. Yun Yang hid it carefully, thinking to himself, ethereal amethyst? My son's life? Is there any connection between the two? The Crane Emperor and the Eagle Emperor, that I've seen before, had brought along quite a number of experts with them. And they've always acted together. Why is it only the Fox Emperor alone this time? What about my son's life that the Fox Emperor mentioned? Yun Yang continued to create chaos, turning the area within a radius of 10,000 miles upside down. On the side of the demon race, the atmosphere of mutual suspicion and exchange of slogans took shape once more, spreading even faster than the previous time. To regular demons, the secret question and answer method had already been proven. It was the best way to deal with the ever-changing forms of demon foxes. And capturing demon foxes was a tangible and effective opportunity for them to ascend to the top in a single step. No demon was willing to give up on this opportunity. Therefore, the death rate of the demon race was gradually increasing every day, with no end in sight. As for Yun Yang, he appeared again and again, expanding the area of his activity as much as possible, going further and further. The furthest he went was 7,000 miles away, and the places where he stopped were the two demon race towns that he had massacred one after another. Such a huge commotion naturally attracted the attention of all the demons. The joint efforts of a few demon sovereigns had failed to completely seal off the area where the fox demon Yun Yang was. This situation infuriated the demon sovereigns. While Yun Yang was risking his life to attract attention, regardless of the cost, Tunton and the other feline demons were also mobilized. They transformed into the experts of various races and began to infiltrate, bribe, and instigate the guards of the demonic soul prison at all costs. Tunton gave the order with a cold expression. We can't waste sect leader Yun's effort. This is also the only chance for the 9 Lives cat race. Once we miss it, it won't come again. All kinds of saint coins, lower, middle, and upper-class spiritual jade, were spent like flowing water. Just like what the Phoenix Sovereign had said, money could not only move people's hearts, but it could also move demons' hearts. They had long known the location of the demonic soul prison. The 9 Lives cat race had even investigated the various levels of the demon race's officials in the demonic soul prison over the years. He even knew every demon race official's personality, temper, and details of their family members, as if they were his family treasures. He had a detailed evaluation of what methods could be used to move each official, and how much money could be used to bribe them. Other than the overall situation, the lack of resources was another reason for not taking any action previously. However, after so many years, they had been giving small favors and deliberately building relationships. In fact, they were already quite familiar with each other, or at least familiar with each other's faces. Therefore, this targeted operation was extraordinarily efficient. It could be said to be operating at a high speed, and everything was going smoothly. Of course, it was not that the demonic soul prison did not have some old-fashioned, rigid, and eccentric officials, but there were only a few of them. They did not affect the overall situation, so they could be bypassed. With Yun Yang's help, in the 20-odd days of buffer time, at least in the eyes of the cat race's higher-ups, their chances of success were quite high. The only thing they were uncertain about now was the Demon Emperor's family that guarded the 9th level of the demonic soul prison, the 12 Supreme Dragon Guards. These guards were the real backbone of the demonic soul prison, and they were also the strongest force guarding the demonic soul prison. The 12 Dragon Clan guards were all from the Dragon Clan, and were of the direct bloodline of the Dragon Clan. They were highly regarded by the Demon Emperor, and had been stationed at the last checkpoint of the Demon Soul prison for many years. However, Tunton had tried everything he could, but whether it was wealth, resources, or even beauty, he could not shake the will of the group of dragons. In desperation, Tunton could only choose to give up the roundabout strategy. However, to be able to fight their way to this point was already a victory that the Nine Lives cat race had never imagined before. As for the rest, we'll just do it the hard way, Tunton thought, gritting her teeth. But how could she not know in her heart that she didn't have much confidence in a forceful attack? The battle power formed by the 12 first-grade Saint Monarch guards wasn't something that the cat race could withstand with their current strength. I don't know why, but the computer suddenly broke last night. I fiddled with it, but the screen turned black. I could only update it this morning. Please forgive me. There will be more in the afternoon. GT. Chapter 13-19. Although the Dragon Guards were only first-level Saint Lords, Tunton was confident that he could take them down one by one. After all, there was a huge gap between a first-level Saint Lord and a second-level Saint Lord. However, these Supreme Dragon Guards had always been inseparable. If he wanted to take down one of them, he would have to take down the other 11 as well. The combined might of the 12 first-grade Saint Monarchs was already unimaginable. Not to mention that they had been staying together all year round. Their tacit understanding was born, and their minds were interlinked. Furthermore, they had a joint attack formation. This made the difficulty of dealing with them more than doubled or tripled. Not to mention that Tunton and the others did not have enough resources, and were living in poverty. Their cultivation had regressed, and they were no longer as valiant as before. Even if they joined forces when they were at their peak, it was unknown whether they would be able to break through the 12 Dragon Monarch defense line. However, since things had come to this, they could not give up halfway. Forcefully attacking was the only feasible method at the moment. It had to be done. Even if the hope was slim, they had to give it their all. Tunton and the others had made up their minds. It was either succeed or die. If they could not forcefully attack, they would die here together. A thought suddenly flashed across Tunton's mind. If the trapped Cat Emperor still had the strength to put up a fight and attack at the same time, perhaps it would be able to break through this final obstacle. Otherwise, there was practically no hope. On this day, Yunyang finally returned to the secret chamber quietly. Along the way, he had encountered a series of battles, and had been scattered at least a dozen times. If Yunyang's combat skills, cultivation base, and mental strength had not improved by leaps and bounds during this long period of time, he might not have been able to make it back. In spite of this, Yunyang's actual combat strength was still no match for the various experts of the demon race, even when he had been pressured to the limit and his ability had improved considerably. In fact, he was far from being able to withstand a single blow. The more he came into contact with them, the more Yunyang felt the inadequacy of his abilities. At the very least, he was powerless in the face of a Saint Lord's combat power. Up until now, Yunyang felt that it was a miracle that he was still alive and had not been caught. Yet, the more Yunyang was in such a situation, the more his fighting spirit soared. He seemed to have returned to the time when his 8 brothers were killed, and he was surrounded by enemies. But he didn't know where his enemies were. It was both familiar and strange at the same time. But at the same time, he felt an inexplicable excitement. The fighting spirit in his heart did not weaken in the slightest. Instead, it grew stronger by the day. Something had happened to the Fox clan. The Fox Emperor's crown prince was killed by the Azure Dragon? Is there only a remnant soul left? Yunyang did not have a source of information in this regard, but the Cat clan had spent a great deal of effort to gather this information. This kind of top-secret information was only vaguely passed among the higher-ups of the various races. Hearing this, Yunyang pondered for a long time. In the end, he still decided this matter was not enough for him to use as a breakthrough point. It could only be used as a chance of survival at the most desperate moment. It's almost done, right? It's almost time. What other concerns do you have? Dragon Clan's 12 guardians? The last hurdle? Yunyang frowned. How should the 12 lords of the dragon clan break through? Not only Tunton and the other felines were considering this question, but Yin Yang was as well. The first thing that came to Yin Yang's mind was seduction. The dragon clan was lascivious by nature, and the cat clan and the fox clan had always been the rare races of the demon clan that produced stunning beauties. Tunton, however, told Yin Yang with a face full of regret that the 12 lords of the dragon clan were the aberrations of the dragon clan. They did not care about women at all. They only cared about each other, like the 12 demons with only one life. Yin Yang's first plan failed, so he came up with another. Other than beauties, the dragon clan also liked shiny things. He could provide a large amount of treasures. Even if the 12 guards were not moved by beauties, a sea of jewels and jewels should work, right? Previously, Yin Yang had traded for countless treasures of heaven and earth, as well as a huge amount of Saint Yuan coins and innumerable rare jewels. Not all the demons who traded had enough treasures of heaven and earth, and many of them used Saint Yuan coins and jewels to make up for it. This was the source of the Saint Yuan coins he used to operate. In Yin Yang's mind, no dragon would be able to escape the temptation of the rare jewels and gems that he possessed. However, he was immediately told that it was useless no matter how many precious jewels and jewels he had. The 12 dragon guards were stationed in the demonic soul prison all year round. Not only were they not interested in women, they even turned a blind eye to the jewels and jewels that the dragon clan instinctively coveted. Other than caring about each other, their only interest was to kill, and all 12 of them were addicted to it. This reality rendered Yin Yang speechless. After all this time, they were clearly 12 perverts. However, this perverted nature had caused the current injury, and there was no room for recovery. I can only fight with brute force. We can only fight with brute force, Maltunton sighed. It's not that we can't fight against the 12 dragon guards with all the combat power we have now, but the key now is, if we can't defeat the 12 dragon guards in 3 breaths' time, and save the cat ancestor from the demonic soul prison, the other demon experts will rush here upon receiving the news. When that time comes, it'll be a true hopeless situation. Other than the cat clan itself, no other demons will be happy to see the cat ancestor reappear. However, the current situation is already the limit of what we can fight for, the best opportunity in 1,000,000 years. We don't dare to hope that there will be a better opportunity. Maltunton's pretty face was filled with bitterness. Yin Yang frowned. To defeat the 12 dragon guards with 12 saint lords working together in the span of 3 breaths was already an impossible feat yet. This was not the most difficult part, because the span of 3 breaths also included the time needed to save the cat ancestor. This level of difficulty was not a joke, was it? What if we use knockout drugs? If we can knock out the 12 dragon guards in one fell swoop, no one will send a message, perhaps we'll have more time. Maltunton rolled his eyes. What kind of knockout drug or poison in this world can knock out a Saint Lord? If the 12 dragon guards are only at the pinnacle of the Supreme Saint level, there's still the Holy Road's smoke and cloud that we can try. However, with a Saint Lord's cultivation base, they've already developed the greatest resistance against all poisons in this world. Even if there are exceptions, it'll only work for a moment, and won't help the overall situation. There's no poison or knockout drug in this world that's suitable for the current situation. Unable to do this or that, Yin Yang could not help but fall into a state of helplessness and helplessness, trapped in a state of helplessness. At this point, the situation was simple and clear. The absolute combat power that the cat clan possessed now was insufficient. As long as there was a strong reinforcement now, even if it was just a new second-level Saint Lord, the outcome of this battle would be completely rewritten. However, there was none. The 9 Lives cat clan was now the enemy of the world. They could not even find a second-level Saint Lord to help them anywhere. As the saying goes, there's only one last step left. Faced with such a situation, everyone who knew what was going on was speechless for a long time. The demons of the cat clan were burning with anxiety, especially Maltunton and the other 2 girls. They were so conflicted that their hearts were about to break. Before this, there was no hope. No one harbored any hope. They only wanted to charge in and die, to end all their troubles. The earlier they died, the earlier they could be reborn. Now the dawn of victory was right before their eyes, but they could not touch it. This was the so-called so close yet so far. This was the greatest torture in the world. Even if the situation was extremely bad, Yun Yang still had to go out and attract the attention of the Demon Clan's Saint Lord level force as much as possible. At the very least, he had to attract them to 1,000 miles away. If he did not do this, there would really be no hope at all. In the demonic palace, the Phoenix Sovereign and the Dragon Sovereign looked exhausted. They looked at each other and stood up helplessly, not saying a word for a long time. The Fox Sovereign, who had been waiting on the side, had his eyes filled with hope and gratitude. But as the Dragon and Phoenix Sovereigns withdrew their hands, the hope slowly disappeared from his eyes. He sucked in a deep breath and asked calmly, "Is it not working?" The Phoenix Sovereign shook his head sadly. The Demon Sovereign sighed and kept the demonic soul jade and ethereal amethysts that were scattered all over the ground, saying, "I didn't expect the soul annihilation palm's damage to the soul to be so domineering and sharp. The Phoenix Sovereign and I did everything we could, but we could only protect Nephew Yu's soul and prevent it from dispersing. Now Nephew Yu's soul isn't missing, and it's all gathered in one place. However, because it's full of cracks, it's hard to be truly complete, let alone resurrect it. If we were to forcefully try to resurrect him and extend his life under such circumstances, the best outcome would be a body with a broken soul that can never be recovered." A broken soul body that could never be recovered? Would that not be a corpse that was still breathing? It would be worse than a vegetable. A vegetable still had a complete soul, and there would still be a day for him to regain his consciousness. With a broken soul, even if the person were to wake up one day, his consciousness would be severely lacking, and he would be even dumber than an idiot. The Fox Sovereign nodded quietly and said sincerely, "No matter what, I, the nine-tailed white fox, will forever remember Brother Phoenix's help." The Phoenix Sovereign's expression was complicated as he said, "Brother Fox, Nephew Yu's condition has not reached the point of despair yet. There might be a way in the future." The Fox Sovereign laughed and said in a carefree manner, "Yes, my son's soul is still here. There are still many possibilities in the future, and I will not give up hope." He then turned and bowed deeply to the Demon Sovereign. "Thank you, Your Majesty Demon Sovereign, for your kindness. Although we have always addressed each other as brothers for the past thousands of years, it was just a formality. Now, in these troubled times, Your Majesty Demon Sovereign has disregarded your dignity and risked your life, sacrificing much of your cultivation to heal my son. It's enough to show your sincerity as a brother. The nine-tailed white fox is deeply grateful, and will never forget." The Demon Sovereign sighed and helped the Fox Sovereign up with both hands. He said softly, "Brother Fox, I am ashamed that I could not save my nephew. There's no such thing as kindness." The Fox Sovereign said seriously, "Your Majesty, you are too serious. Demonic energy is sometimes exhausted. This is the fate of my son." He smiled lightly and carried his son's body. He took the heavenly sealed crystal that contained the soul fragment from the Phoenix Sovereign's hands. He rubbed it in his hands for a moment, and his expression was slightly sorrowful. He said, "When the storm in the Demon Imperial City is settled, I will take my leave. I have been fighting in the blood soul mouth for tens of thousands of years, but there has never been a time when my heart is so desolate. In the future, as long as there is no major event that affects the fate of the demon race, I, the nine-tailed white fox, do not want to return." He raised his head and looked at the magnificent buildings of the Demon Imperial Palace. He smiled bitterly. "This life is probably like this." The Demon Sovereign was shocked and could not help but say, "Nine-tailed, why are you so depressed? You still have a lot of life left, even if you continue to nurture." The Phoenix Sovereign coughed and interrupted the Demon Sovereign's words. He said kindly, "My dear nephew might still have a day of peace. Brother Fox, please calm down first. I have one last thing to ask of you, Brother Fox. As long as our brothers are here, no matter what Brother Fox needs, you only need to summon us, and we will do our best to help you." The Fox Sovereign nodded and bowed deeply to the Demon Sovereign again. He said, "Thank you again, Your Majesty, for sparing me. Yin Yang's incident was a major oversight on my part. My son's misfortune is also a result of karma. The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. The demon sovereign sighed softly. The fox sovereign smiled, and put his son's body, and the heavenly sealed crystal into his spatial ring. He then bade farewell and left. When he walked out of the main hall, all the 28 great monarchs of the fox race gathered around him. They looked at the fox sovereign with concerned and inquiring eyes, but none of the demons spoke up. Everyone could see that the fox sovereign's face was extremely gloomy. The fox sovereign looked at the demons and said indifferently, "Let's go." Before his words echoed in the air, he left the palace in large strides. All the saint monarchs of the fox clan looked dejected. They followed the fox sovereign out of the demon palace without a word, heading towards the fox sovereign's temporary residence in the demon imperial city. The rock sovereign, eagle sovereign, and the others frowned as they watched the fox sovereign leave. They felt that something was wrong, but they could not put their finger on it. The fox had come out of the palace's secret chamber, and had no intention of greeting the demon sovereigns. They understood that his son's soul had not recovered. Although he was like a dead man, it was one thing for them to let it go. But why did the fox sovereign's silhouette carry an indescribable sense of melancholy? Was there a need for that? As long as his son worked harder, he could have as many children as he wanted. After the fox sovereign left for a while, the demon sovereign and the phoenix sovereign were still sitting opposite each other in the quiet room. The demon sovereign's expression was solemn, while the phoenix sovereign was taking long breaths, as if he was trying to suppress something. After a long time, there was a sudden soft sound. An extremely strong and vigorous spiritual energy instantly isolated this small space from the world, forming a world of its own. Immediately after, the phoenix sovereign stood up and stared at the demon sovereign fiercely. He clenched his fists tightly. The demon sovereign suddenly raised his head and frowned. "What are you doing?" The phoenix sovereign was enraged. She rushed forward and grabbed the demon sovereign's clothes. She yelled, "What am I doing? I want to ask you, what are you doing?" Chapter 13:20. Demon King frowned. "Ridiculous. Do you know what you are talking about? Let go of me." Phoenix King's eyes were spitting fire as he asked word by word. "Why didn't you give it your all just now? Why did you stop the dragon soul nourishment midway?" Demon King squinted his eyes and said, "Even if I did not stop it, the treatment was destined to be unsuccessful. Since there's no hope of success, why waste your efforts in vain? Don't tell me you don't know this?" The Phoenix Emperor laughed coldly. "Of course I know. Of course I know. I know that as long as this continues, your soul will still have a chance to solidify, even though it will be difficult for him to regain his consciousness. Once his soul is solidified, he can reincarnate. With Yuer's attainments in the Fox Clan's secret techniques, after reincarnation, his primordial spirit will be nourished by his mother's body, and his vitality will multiply. It is not impossible for him to return to the Fox Prince's original body. It is just a little bit of work. But you stopped the dragon soul nourishment midway. Not only did the treatment process go to waste, it also destroyed everything that followed. It can even be said that from the moment you stopped, there was no hope for Nine-Tailed White's son." Phoenix King asked angrily. "Something big will happen. Why is that? You have never been such a short-sighted person. Tell me the reason, give me a reason." Demon King was silent for a moment before he said, "I have already reached the peak of the half-saint realm. I am only half a step away from stepping into the sage realm." He suddenly turned around and looked at Phoenix King. "In fact, I have already taken half a step into it. I cannot expend too much energy at this time. The dragon soul nourishment that I gave earlier is already the limit that I can give. If I force it any further, I will deplete my great Tao dragon soul. In order to save Nine-Tailed White's son, I will have to give up at least 20% of my great Tao dragon soul. Once I lose 20% of my great Tao dragon soul, I will drop to the mid-level of the half-saint realm. I will need to cultivate for at least another 5,000 years to recover. And I don't know if I can reach my peak again after I recover." Demon King's eyes were filled with pain. "Do you think I don't know that this is a great opportunity to rebuild our relationship and win Nine-Tailed White's heart. But Azure Dragon is too ruthless, and that child's injuries are too severe. The price to pay to save him was too great. This is far beyond the limit that I can bear. At the critical moment when our demon race is about to attack the mysterious yellow world, you should know what this kind of decline in rank means, right? For his life, the entire demon clan would have to wait another 5,000 years? If you were me, what would you choose? The Phoenix Emperor let out a long sigh and said angrily, "How can I not understand this? From the very beginning, I understood that the overall interest of the demon race is above everything else. It's truly impossible for the demon race to wait another 5,000 years for that child's life. Then why didn't you just say it out loud? And you still have to act like you've done your best?" He roared furiously. "Do you think Nine-Tailed White is a fool? Let me tell you, he is a fox. He was of the fox race. Furthermore, he is the emperor of the fox clan. He is the real ancestor when it comes to playing mind games. Even I don't dare to play mind games with him. How dare you?" The last few words were practically roared out. You lied to him, destroyed his son, and you still want to gain his gratitude. What are you thinking? The Phoenix Emperor was speechless. After it ended, the first person Nine-Tailed White thanked was himself. After a while, he remembered to thank the Demon Emperor. Both of them contributed at the same time, but he had to thank them separately? How could Nine-Tailed White make such a mistake? When the Phoenix Emperor thought of this scene, his heart turned cold. He didn't know. How could he not know? Nine-Tailed White is your brother who started the clan, the brother who helped you ascend to the throne. The Phoenix Emperor said angrily. Back then, the Nine Lives Cat was also your brother who started the clan. For your son, you stubbornly acted on your own and caused the Nine Lives Cat clan to disappear from the Demon clan. Now for the same son, for your own strength, you're talking about the righteousness of the Demon clan with me? If Nine-Tailed White sees through it, what are you going to do? The Demon Emperor's eyes turned sharp. He dares. He dares. Does he not dare? The Phoenix Emperor asked casually. The Demon Emperor was lost in thought for a moment. Suddenly, he roared in a low voice. How can I not know that he is my brother who started the clan? How can I not remember that he was my brother who started the clan? When have I ever forgotten what he has done? But this price, I can't bear it. If I was still the Bai Yulong who brought my brothers to roam the demon realm, even if I have to destroy my soul, I will save his son at all costs. But I am the Demon Emperor now. Was I not clear enough just now? On my shoulders, it is no longer a few brothers who are loyal to me. It is the entire demon clan. Phoenix Emperor, is there any meaning in talking about personal grudges with me now? The Phoenix Emperor laughed coldly. Is there any meaning? Is there no meaning? Without a bunch of old brothers, what can you do with the entire demon clan? The Demon Emperor snorted, as if he wanted to say something. But after thinking about it, he didn't say anything. Instead, he said helplessly, "Anyway, this is the situation now. I have never refused to help Nine-Tailed White save his son. I really intend to help him." Previously, in the process of saving his son, don't you know that I have done my best? But in the end, it has exceeded my bottom line. I can only stop and pretend to give both sides a way out. The Phoenix Emperor sighed helplessly. For a moment, he didn't have any interest in talking. I can see it. Of course I can see it. I can also see that your pretense is simply the heart of an emperor. Now, you have already used that *T heart of an emperor on your own brother. Do you know that you first gave others a huge hope, and then personally smashed this hope? This kind of cruelty can't just be described with the word great. Rather than that, you might as well not agree to help directly. If you directly told him the pros and cons, the Fox Emperor wouldn't be angry. He could just find another way. But now, your heart of an emperor has directly caused Crown Prince Fox to have no hope of revival. This is a deadly feud. It's no longer as simple as leaving him to die. Yes, it's even toying with him. Back then, you could annihilate the entire Nine Lives Cat clan because of your son. Now why can't Nine-Tailed White do something for his son? Oh, if Nine-Tailed White really did something, it's hard to say how serious it would be. The Demon Emperor hesitated and said, Nine-Tailed White didn't say anything just now. He was sad about his son's death, so he might not be able to see it. My dragon soul power can't be sensed by those who aren't directly involved. I have indeed expended a considerable amount of dragon soul power. I can see that Nine-Tailed White's gratitude just now was sincere. I believe I didn't hear wrongly. The Phoenix Emperor panted a few times and pursed his lips. He wanted to say something, but he didn't say it in the end. He said softly, "I hope so." The Demon Emperor patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, Nine-Tailed White is smart." The Phoenix Emperor's expression stiffened. He nodded slowly and murmured, "He has always been smart. He has always been the smartest." He looked at the Demon Emperor. There was only one sentence in his mind. "With your intelligence, you're really not suitable to play the heart of an emperor. Especially with a smart guy. He can play you to death, Your Majesty." Outside the Demon Emperor's palace. It was a mansion that was slightly smaller than the Imperial Palace, but the decorations and furnishings inside were in no way inferior. This was the residence that the Demon Emperor had arranged for the Fox Emperor. At this moment, the secret room inside was also tightly sealed, and there was an intense argument going on. The Fox Empress' beautiful face was full of tears. Her expression was crazy, and her eyes were spitting fire. "This is what you call a loyal brother? This is what you meant by definitely? Nine-Tailed White, this is the boss that you risked your life to follow back then? We came here full of hope. Now we have to give up halfway. No, not halfway. Our son is dead for sure. There's no hope of him coming back. Nine-Tailed White, our entire Fox clan has followed the Demon Emperor, Blade Mountain Flame Sea Guild for so many years. For you, for your loyal brothers. All these years, I've heard you talk about how proud your brothers have become Demon Emperors. And now, you're telling me this." The Fox Empress completely exploded. "Nine-Tailed White, give me back my son." The Fox Emperor just stood there with a pale face. He allowed the Empress to kick, hit, tear, and bite him. Her saliva sprayed all over his face and neck. His face and neck were bitten until they were bloody and scratched. His hair was pulled until pieces fell off. His clothes were tattered and dirty, but he did not say a word. The Fox Empress vented her anger crazily, and finally fell to the ground. Her long hair blew down, covering her dispirited face. Then, she laughed coldly and sadly. Hee hee, ha 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 ha. Her hair was disheveled as she lowered her head and muttered, "Then why do you still continue with the Dragon and Phoenix Ultimate Recovery Technique? If I don't use this technique, you will at least have a chance to reincarnate. When he comes back to this world, I will immediately find him and raise him from an infant. Even if his soul is incomplete and his mind is lacking, he will always be by my side. Unfortunately, your best brother hee. Nine-Tailed White, how are you?" "Very well. Forget it. I've seen through you now. Nine-Tailed White, from now on, you'll be the high and mighty Fox Emperor. I'll bring my people back to my green hill. From now on, you and I are done with each other. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. Don't let me see you again." The Fox Empress lifted her head abruptly. Her pretty face was filled with extreme madness as she gritted her teeth. "If I see you again, either you die or I die." She had already raised one of her hands, and it was obvious that she was about to swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. Once the oath was made, the Fox Emperor's family would be completely finished. Wait, the Fox Emperor, who had been motionless for a long time, came back to his senses at once. He stopped the Fox Empress and said hurriedly, "I still have a way for you to recover." The Fox Empress laughed maniacally. Bullsh *T. She then said loudly, "Oh my God." The Fox Emperor was sweating anxiously as he hollered, "Yun Yang, that human has a mystical skill. I have a way. I really have a way. As long as I can contact him, you will definitely turn for the better." At that moment, the Fox Emperor's eyes were ablaze with anxiety. The Fox Empress' gaze froze as she lifted her head to look at the Fox Emperor. Her gaze was filled with disbelief and uncertainty. The Fox Emperor and the Fox Empress stared at each other for a long time. The Fox Empress nodded slowly and said, "Nine-Tailed White, I'll believe you one last time. I'll give you one more month." She smiled forlornly. "My son's soul can only hold on for another month at most. We'll see in a month's time." The Fox Empress turned to leave. The Fox Emperor sat down on the ground, cold sweat breaking out all over his body. At this moment, he suddenly understood how the 9 Lives cat must have felt back then. The Fox Emperor chuckled bitterly. I've never thought that I, the king of the Fox clan, who prided myself on my intelligence, would almost lose my family today and have to rely on a foreign warrior. Then he sat down, his dim gaze darkening. It was as if there was no light in it, but it was also like an abyss. He carefully recalled everything that had happened in his heart. Ever since the Demon Emperor agreed to help his son, he went through every single detail without missing a single detail. The Phoenix Emperor had always been sincere in helping him. His heart of 9 orifices could clearly sense this sentiment. If not for this, he wouldn't have been so confident in this treatment. However, at that moment when the Demon Emperor suddenly stopped the treatment, the Fox Emperor could clearly sense the Phoenix Emperor's rage that was about to burst out from her shock. The Phoenix Emperor suggested that the two of them join forces to save Yuer, and the Demon Emperor agreed without hesitation. Then, all the required materials were gathered, including the rarest ethereal amethysts. All the ethereal amethysts in the demon race were gathered together. Although the number was still less than the 100 that the Phoenix Emperor had expected, there were already more than 70 of them. This was already an unexpected number, and it had also increased the success rate from 40% to more than 60%. A success rate of 60%. With Jade Tail's injuries and condition, it was a rare and extremely high success rate. Be it the Fox Emperor or the Fox Queen, they were all overjoyed. They were indescribably grateful to the Demon Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor. At this point, everything was ready. The Phoenix Emperor and the Demon Emperor began the treatment as scheduled. The Demon Emperor's Dragon Soul Essence was the first to stabilize Jade Tail's soul, gathering all the soul fragments in one spot. Then, the Phoenix Soul Essence wrapped around it, stitching and repairing it bit by bit, connected by blood and chi. The Fox Emperor could clearly feel that his son's spirit was condensing, mending, and recovering bit by bit. His life force was growing. At that moment, his heart was filled with gratitude, and he even wanted to keep the heart of 9 orifices. They had been brothers for so many years, and he was willing to put in so much effort for his family's matter. Such a noble status. He had even activated the heart of 9 orifices to check on the condition. Even if he was worried about his son, what he did was still inhumane. The Fox Emperor's heart was filled with shame, and he kept scolding himself. He must have spent too much time with humans, that he had learned to measure the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure. How could he do this to his own brother? However, at that moment, everything happened so abruptly, so unexpectedly. The Phoenix Emperor's Phoenix Soul Essence was still steadily pouring out, continuing to repair the cracks in Yuer's spirit. However, the Demon Emperor's Dragon Soul Essence, who was responsible for gathering Yuer's soul and guarding the soul gate, suddenly stopped without warning. Li Shun. GT. Chapter 1321. Just as the Demon Emperor stopped. At that moment, the soul vitality of 9-tailed Jade, which had been forcefully restrained, lost its suppression. It suddenly shook and dissipated. Not only did it make the treatment completely ineffective, but it also caused the damage to 9-tailed Jade's divine soul to worsen. It was almost a devastating blow. That was the Demon Emperor cutting off the Dragon Soul's soul energy supply. At that moment, the Fox Emperor felt that his mind was in chaos. He was completely dumbfounded. A bolt from the blue struck the top of his head without any warning. However, he couldn't say anything. He didn't know why the Demon Emperor did that. But that wasn't the main point. The main point was that his son was with the Demon Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor, and there was no way to save him. If he couldn't control his temper, perhaps this would be the place where he and his son would die, or perhaps he would follow in the footsteps of the 9 Lives cat, and be sealed in the demon soul prison forever. Even if the dragon and the phoenix teamed up, he wouldn't be a match for either of them. Even if the Phoenix Emperor was on good terms with him, no other demon in this world could compare to the relationship between him and the Demon Emperor. That was the difference in quality. There was no point in comparing them. At that moment, he understood the situation. He could only watch as his only son's soul body was filled with cracks that could never be healed. Then he suppressed the pain in his heart and thanked the Phoenix Emperor and the Demon Emperor sincerely. Only then could he leave the Demon Emperor's palace alive. Only then could he find another way to revive his beloved son's life. It's a pity, after thousands of years of cultivation, I still couldn't control the slight leakage of my emotions. The Fox Emperor smiled bitterly. His emotions were hard to predict. Perhaps the Demon Emperor wouldn't notice what he said before he left. However, it was impossible to hide it from the Phoenix Emperor. At that moment, the Fox Emperor's mind drifted off into the distance, and he suddenly thought of something. White robes, red eyes, 7-star golden bones, 9-tailed green mountains, the leader of the demon race. That was when his son was born. A strange fragrance wafted through the air, and a refreshing atmosphere lingered in the air. The child's body was covered in white hair, but his eyes were crimson red. There were also 7 red moles on his feet, and he was born with golden bones. Even if one didn't understand, it was clear that this child would definitely be extraordinary when he grew up. He was overjoyed and held a banquet. Countless top-notch experts of the demon race gathered in the hall. At that time, a great demon congratulated him. Today the Crown Prince has arrived. We are honored to be here. Why don't we work together to estimate the Crown Prince's future and find out the secrets of heaven? At that time, he was drunk and his ears hot, and he responded with a loud roar. As a result, a total of 24 saint monarchs who were close to him joined forces and gathered their saint force to ask for the secrets of the heavens. In the end, the demerit he received was the few sentences displayed. But when he saw the last sentence of the oracle, he was not happy, but scared out of his wits. He hurriedly gathered 10 demon clan elders and used all the demon aura in his body to disturb the heaven's secret. He managed to change the last sentence to Master of the Fox Clan. However, the demon heart was unpredictable. The oracle that day still spread. Even without the oracle, after his son was born, he was exceptionally talented. He had already reached a higher level of cultivation at the age of 10. In less than 100 years, he already had the cultivation of a saint king. This was the result of him laying a solid foundation for his son and avoiding any hidden dangers. He rarely gave him supplementary elixirs. One must know that while any elixir or heavenly treasure increased cultivation, it would definitely be accompanied by hidden dangers. The demon race was ultimately not the human race. While the demon body was extremely talented, it made it difficult for the demon body to absorb all the elixirs. If one were to rely on external forces in the early stages of cultivation, the path in the future would only become narrower and narrower. However, the Fox Crown Prince, the 9-tailed jade, relied solely on his own hard work in cultivation. Along the way, he almost ignored the bottleneck and ascended to the heavens. He could be said to be the #1 genius in the history of the demon race. After his son grew up, he displayed extraordinary means. Aside from his high cultivation and extraordinary intelligence, he was also magnanimous, gentle, and honest. All the demons who came into contact with him could not help but feel a sense of recognition. Without a doubt, this was the natural bearing of a king. All the members of the Fox clan were elated. This was because the Crown Prince's current performance showed that the Fox clan would definitely welcome a wise and mighty monarch in the future. Not only was this monarch wise and mighty, but he was also kind and generous. From the way he spoke, he was definitely a man of great talent and ambition. Other than the fact that he was still lacking in the skills of a monarch and his life experience, everything else was impeccable. The Fox Emperor still remembered that decades ago, his son relied on his own hard work to cultivate to the 3rd stage of the Saint King. That day, he came to him excitedly to report the good news. How could he forget the pride of his son at that moment? I am the Crown Prince, but I have only enjoyed the convenience of the royal family. I have never used the heavenly treasures that are coveted by all demon clans. My body is completely made of golden exquisite bones, without the slightest impurity. The supreme path is smooth and unobstructed. The great Tao is within reach. The Fox Emperor was also extremely excited about this outcome. He knew better than any other demon that his son's future achievements would definitely be stronger than his, much stronger. Even if it was the sage, that supreme rank that only existed in legends, it was just a process for his son. All the roads had been paved. All that was left was the accumulation of spiritual power and the accumulation of time. However, the sudden change was like an unexpected calamity falling from the heavens. He and his beloved sky demon would be separated forever. The Fox Emperor frowned. A memory from a long time ago flashed before his eyes. That time, the demon emperor had mentioned his son to him. He had jokingly said, "Nine-tailed white, you have to nurture my nephew well. He is the future leader of the demon clan. In the future, my position will be reserved for him, ha ha ha." Perhaps the spirit demon emperor was only joking at that time, but he was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat and almost ran away. How could I forget such a big matter? It should be this matter that caused the current situation. Long Yutian has never been a meticulous person. Although his cultivation base is high, his talent is exceptional, and he is unparalleled in the world. However, he often makes decisions on impulse. Previously, he had a think tank to help him with his plans. However, after being the demon emperor for so many years, as his power grew, he almost dismissed the think tank. This matter, once he agreed to it, he would do his best and would never give up halfway. However, the reality now is that he changed his mind halfway. This shouldn't be the idea of a demon. It was his own decision, a decision made in a split second. Yes, if the dragon and phoenix's vital essence had saved my son, not only would my son's primordial spirit be recondensed, there would be hope for his resurrection, and it would even be a blessing in disguise. Think about it. He who has all the advantages of a dragon, phoenix, nine-tailed fox, and a nine-tailed fox. His future would only be broader and more boundless. As for the words that year, the spirit demon emperor must have suddenly remembered those words after he agreed to it. The sky cannot have two suns, and a country cannot have two rulers. What he is trying to save now, or even nurture, might be the successor who will replace him in the future. So he regretted it. He didn't want that day to come, and he didn't want to regret it. So, he chose to disappoint us, no despair. The Fox Emperor paced slowly, his thin face expressionless. So, he did it on purpose. But why did he do it? And in front of me? Yes, he isn't the Phoenix Emperor. He doesn't know that I have the heart of 9 orifices, and he thinks that I can't see through it. And the Phoenix Emperor, out of consideration, won't expose his tricks. In fact, he can even sell himself to me and gain my sincerity, because after all, he did put in a lot of effort. As long as my son dies, I won't be able to pose any threat to his throne at all. The Fox Emperor raised his head expressionlessly and looked at the dark sky outside the window. He let out a long sigh. In that case, Big Brother is no longer my big brother. He is now a demon emperor, and only a demon emperor. But I was the one who predicted the heavenly workings that day. If my son should be the ruler of the demon race, my son wouldn't have died here. There must be a turn for the better in this matter. A cold smirk appeared on the Fox Emperor's face. It was so cold that it could freeze a demon's heart. In the next moment, his Saint Monarch-level mental strength erupted violently. It was unleashed to its limit without reservation. So much so that the area within 17,000 miles was completely enveloped in his domineering mental strength. Yin-Yang must be within this area. The only one who can save my son now, the only one I can pin my hopes on, is this human. He possesses many unique abilities that are beyond our knowledge. His endless transformations, perhaps the legendary manifestation of the heavens. Since he can possess the extinct mystical materials of the eagle, rock, and condor clans, he might also have a treasure that can condense souls. Also, he had a considerable amount of ethereal amethysts with him previously. He might be able to create a miracle. He has created too many miracles in this period of time. If there's still someone who can protect my son from death in this world, it's none other than Yin-Yang. No demon knows that the heart of 9 orifices combined with my extreme deific consciousness is the strongest insight in this world. Only I can find traces of Yin-Yang. Now, I'm going to find him. My son mustn't die. I want Yin-Yang to save my son. You're the demon emperor, no longer my big brother. I don't blame you for your choice. But my son mustn't die. I want to save my son, just like how you didn't hesitate to turn against the old cat for your son back then. It's the same for both of us. It's all for our son. Big brother, this may be the last time I call you that. In that instant, the Fox Emperor's incomparably vast mental energy shook the entire demon imperial city. In the demon emperor's palace, the demon emperor was shocked. Nine-tailed White's mental strength is so terrifying. Could he have hidden his cultivation base before this? But this should be to search for that human's whereabouts, right? Yes, in the end, it was because of that human that his son had died. Of course, Nine-tailed White's rage has to be vented. And that human is the most appropriate and only choice for him to vent his anger. By then, the Phoenix Emperor had already left the palace and arrived in front of the Fox Emperor. Although he knew that the Fox Emperor did not want to see anyone now, he still came. This was because the Phoenix Emperor knew very well that if the knot in Nine-tailed White's heart was left unresolved, it would definitely become a threat to the demon race in the future. Nine-tailed White's destructive power was much, much stronger than the Nine-Lives cat of yesteryear. Is the Fox Emperor here? Your Majesty, His Majesty is currently activating his mental strength to search the world, searching for that human's whereabouts. I have something to talk to him about. Report it quickly. This, the Phoenix Emperor and the Fox Emperor, were the rare few sovereigns in the demon world who were known for their playfulness. They were on good terms with each other, and their relationship was the deepest, second only to the Dragon Emperor. If it were in the past, the guards would not have hesitated, and would even lead the Phoenix Emperor to the Fox Emperor's location. However, things were different now. The Dragon and Phoenix Emperors had failed to save the Linghu Crown Prince, and the latter could no longer be saved. It was not only the Fox Emperor and Empress who were devastated, but the rest of the foxes were also filled with grief and resentment. There were those who hated the Azure Dragon for being merciless, and those who hated Yun Yang, the instigator of all this, but there were also those who resented the two sovereigns for not being able to save the Linghu Crown Prince. Now that the Fox Emperor was filled with grief and anger, he was exerting his full power to search for the human's whereabouts. It was inconvenient to disturb him, so he was hesitant when the Phoenix Emperor asked to see him. At this moment, a gentle voice rang out. His Majesty, the Phoenix Emperor, has graced us with his presence. Invite him in quickly. It was the Fox Empress' voice. The Phoenix Emperor chuckled humorlessly. Greetings, sister-in-law. The Fox Empress came out to welcome them with a smile, looking pleasantly surprised. Greetings, greetings, greetings. It's the fragrance that brought my son's second uncle here. TSK, no wonder I've heard the magpies chirping from morning till night. It's my husband's most loyal brother of more than 40,000 years who's here. Your presence brings light to my humble abode. It's an honor to bring light to my humble abode. Quick, 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 please come in quickly. Her voice was sincere, her expression cordial. The Phoenix Emperor's expression froze as he said hoarsely, Sister-in-law you. Oh, second brother, why are you so courteous? For so many years, our families have always been united, and we've gone through so many things together. Thinking back to those eventful times, I can't help but feel warmth in my heart when I think of the earth-shattering and sincere friendship between you brothers. It's an indescribable sense of intimacy. Isn't he home now that he's here? What's there to report? The Fox Empress' smile was like a blooming flower, her tone as gentle as it could be. The Phoenix Emperor coughed and bowed solemnly. Sister-in-law, what happened to your nephew? I'm utterly ashamed. The Fox Empress' expression turned serious. Oh, my second brother, please don't say that. Just based on the many years of brotherly relationship between you and my husband, what does a mere nephew of yours amount to? What's worth? Not to mention the death of a nephew. For the sake of second brother's reputation, the nine-tailed white fox slaughtered our entire family. Even in the underworld, we will be moved by your brotherly love and wish you the best of luck. Don't just stand outside when you're home. Come in quickly. I'll go brew some tea for you now. Later, I'll personally cook a few dishes for you, second brother, so that you brothers can have a good drink. As the saying goes, when a man is depressed, he has to drink. Your sister-in-law is insensible, but the nine-tailed white is sensible. Don't mind it, don't mind it. Please don't mind it, don't mind it. The Phoenix Emperor's expression stiffened as he coughed. Brother Fox is still unleashing his spiritual power. It's really not a good idea to disturb him at this time. Why don't I do it another day? Second brother. What are you saying? You're already here. Why do you still need to catch a spy? The Fox Empress said firmly. Even if he has a huge matter, he has to let it go. Brotherly relationship is important. He suddenly shouted, Nine-tailed white. Your good brother who has gone through thick and thin with you for more than 40,000 years has arrived. Why aren't you coming out to greet him warmly? Be careful that I get angry and get your big brother to teach you a lesson, you disobedient good-for-nothing. The Phoenix Emperor's face turned into a persimmon as he laughed stiffly. Well, I'm not here for anything important. Sister-in-law, please do what you need to do. I'll go back now. Before he finished speaking, he turned around and left. He really could not stay any longer. The Fox Empress said repeatedly behind him, second brother, how can you leave? You mustn't leave. If you leave and the nine-tailed white gets angry with me, what can I do? I just lost my son. If I'm also angered by my husband, I really won't be able to survive in this fox clan. The Phoenix Emperor ignored her and walked even faster. With a flash of his body, he had already disappeared without a trace. The Fox Empress was throwing a tantrum behind him. You bunch of blind fools. Your master's good brother is here. And you actually dare to stop him? Are you courting death? Bastards! How many brains do you think you have? Let me tell you, the nine-tailed white can even neglect his son for his brother. Why would he care about the few of you? Who do you think you are? If there's a next time, I'll definitely skin all of you personally and make fox fur coats for the brothers of your majesty. The Phoenix Emperor, who was already hundreds of miles away, stopped in midair. He closed his eyes wordlessly and retracted all his spiritual power and divine sense. Behind him, the Fox Empress' words were still reverberating through the void, her voice echoing for thousands of miles. Every sentence and word of the Fox Empress was like a heavy knife stabbing into the Phoenix Emperor's heart. Stab after stab, stab after stab. And the Fox Emperor's spiritual power was still reverberating through the void, searching carefully over thousands of miles of land. Wherever his spiritual power passed, it would crush everything mercilessly. But if there was any obstruction, it would be suppressed without a second word. It was unknown how many demons had lost their lives under the Fox Emperor's violent spiritual power at this moment. This process was still going on as if it would never end. The Phoenix Emperor turned back reluctantly and looked in the direction of the eruption of spiritual power. His gaze was extremely deep. He looked at the sky of the demon race. Under that crazy spiritual power, pieces of the sky were shattered and reformed. After a long time, his body disappeared into the void. Only a sigh was left behind. Brother, take care. Riding up to this point, everything has been sorted out. But there's still one last thing I can't make up my mind about. It's White Bear and the others. If I sort out the plot, this crazy eruption will pass. GT. Chapter 1322. Tunton, who had transformed into the Fox Clan's Saint Sovereign, walked proudly into a tavern in a small city with an awe-inspiring air. This was a point of contact that had been decided long ago. It was quiet amidst the noise and would not attract attention. However, Tunton's mind shook violently the moment she stepped through the door. She wanted to retreat at top speed, but she knew very well that it was too late. Even if there was only one opponent in the tavern, it was enough to completely restrain, shackle, and suppress her. She would not have any chance. Even if she self-destructed to seek a chance to commit suicide, the chances were minuscule. The person in the tavern was a middle-aged man who looked as handsome as jade and had a leisurely expression on his face. At this moment, he was amiably raising a glass of wine to greet her from afar. Fox Emperor. The shock in Tunton's heart almost caused her to stiffen on the spot. The other party had already discovered her. There was no point in escaping or even self-destructing. She had already lost the opportunity before she could act. In front of the person in front of her, her life and death were no longer in her control. However, Tunton was ultimately one of the few experts of the cat clan. She forcibly calmed her mind and strode in. There was an indescribable complexity in her voice as she said, "It's really been a long time since I last saw Your Majesty the Fox Emperor." The Fox Emperor's amiable expression did not change in the slightest. He smiled faintly and said, "It's really been a long time. Cat concubine, please sit down." Tunton, who still looked like an imposing burly man, forced a smile, and then leisurely walked forward. The moment she sat down, her body swayed and restored her original appearance. She said indifferently, "Your Majesty greets Your Majesty. I wish Your Majesty 10,000 blessings and happiness." She knew that she was at the door of death, and that there was no chance of survival. She simply let go of all her worries, and instead regained her composure. "I still remember how Your Majesty the Fox Emperor and His Majesty had countless long conversations over wine and wine, sitting opposite each other and drinking to our heart's content. It really feels like a lifetime has passed since we met again today." A complicated expression flitted across the Fox Emperor's calm face. "Cat concubine is right. It does feel like a lifetime has passed." Tunton chuckled. "Yesterday's events, such as yesterday's death, the Fox Emperor is still the same, but my cat clan is in a precarious situation. My emperor is imprisoned and I don't know if he's still alive." Although the Fox Emperor is still the same, why did I hear that your son is no longer around?" Tunton's words were extremely vicious, directly exposing the Fox Emperor's scars. The true meaning in its bones was that it hoped the Fox Emperor would be enraged and directly kill it. Otherwise, as long as the Fox Emperor's mental state was slightly unstable, and not in a perfect state, it would be able to forcefully break free and self-destruct to perish together with the Fox Emperor. Unsurprisingly, a pained expression flitted across the Fox Emperor's face, but he quickly calmed down and looked at Tunton, as if he didn't feel offended at all. "I'm still the same, but isn't the cat concubine still the same? Your tongue is as sharp as before." Tunton said indifferently, "Back then, the demon emperor slaughtered millions of living beings of my cat clan in a fit of rage for the death of his son. The cat clan's calamity was so domineering that the entire world was shocked. I didn't expect that Your Majesty the Fox Emperor doesn't seem to have the same domineering aura as the demon emperor." The Fox Emperor frowned again and then said indifferently, "The cat clan is guilty, and the demon world is surrounded by enemies. From what I can see, there are many of your old friends among the many emperors of the demon race. The Phoenix Emperor was the leader of the wise people of the demon world. This was publicly acknowledged by the demon race, and no one had ever objected to it. However, the Fox Emperor was second only to the Phoenix Emperor. He had only conversed with Tunton for a short while, but he seemed to have already sensed many abnormalities." Tunton's heart trembled. Almost every demon in the Fox clan knew that Crown Prince Fox had suffered fatal injuries. However, the Fox clan knew that the Phoenix Emperor had used a secret technique of the Phoenix clan to gather Crown Prince Fox's scattered spirit at his critical moment, and had even promised to join forces with the demon emperor to save him. Therefore, 99% of those who knew about Crown Prince Fox believed that although Crown Prince Fox was in critical condition, he would be saved with the help of the two emperors. Only the emperor-level demons knew that the two emperors had failed to save Crown Prince Fox, and had even made it impossible for Crown Prince Fox to recover. Tunton had directly said that Crown Prince Fox was no longer around. It was obvious that he had obtained the relevant information from one of the emperors. Tunton did not care that the Fox Emperor had seen through his hidden cards. His smile grew increasingly gentle, but his eyes were extremely mocking as he said indifferently, "Your Majesty the Fox Emperor, let me give you a word of advice. Don't judge the hearts of demons by your own standards. In this world, there are still demons who value loyalty and are willing to sacrifice themselves for their brothers. Not all of them are despicable little demons who call themselves brothers, but remain silent at critical moments." The Fox Emperor said indifferently, "Really? If the cat clan still has such a strong ally, why is His Majesty still trapped in the demon soul prison?" Tunton was still as eloquent as ever. "That's because there are too many verbal friends in this world, but too few real brothers. If there were one or two more, how would His Majesty be where he is today? The Fox Emperor sighed and did not speak for a long time. After a long while he said, "The Tiger Emperor is indeed loyal." Tunton said, "The Fox Emperor is wise and far-sighted." This seemed to be an admission, but the meaning in his heart was, "You can guess however you want. I'll admit to whoever you say. Can you use my statement to accuse any emperor?" The Fox Emperor smiled bitterly and said in a deep voice, "Cat Queen, I did not come here with ill intentions today. I have a request." Tunton exclaimed in surprise, "You didn't come here to capture me?" The Fox Emperor said faintly, "Cat Queen, although you have an impressive battle record in the past, it's not enough for me to come here." Tunton's expression immediately changed, but he knew that the Fox Emperor was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Although he was a Saint Emperor expert and had an impressive battle record in the past, in terms of true battle strength, he could easily crush the Fox Emperor with a single hand. If the Fox Emperor said that he had come specially for him, he would be thinking too highly of him. The Fox Emperor continued, "I came here with a purpose and sincerity. Right now, I'm the only one within a 50-mile radius." Tunton calmed himself down and probed with his deific consciousness. His expression changed again. He had been filled with fear and anger just now, and had not noticed this. "May I ask what the Fox Emperor wants?" "I want to find Yun Yang. I need him to help me with something," the Fox Emperor said seriously. His words were filled with solemnity. He knew that the Lady of the Heaven-devouring cat was suspicious and strong-willed. It was not a joke that she would die at any time. If he could not make his intentions clear, she would never help him. It would not even be unusual for the spies they were talking to self-destruct on the spot for him to see. "Yun Yang?" Tunton asked in surprise. "Who is that?" The Fox Emperor said faintly, "Lady Cat, if I didn't have some confidence, why would I come here to wait for you? Do you think you've been very secretive all these years? At least in the eyes of the Phoenix Emperor and me, you have no secrets to speak of. Why don't you think about the troubles you've encountered all these years? Are they really all things that the remnants of the Cat clan can handle? Or do you think that after so many years, the rest of your clansmen have always had a smooth-sailing life? Even when they were in trouble, they would turn misfortune into fortune when they were about to collapse. Do you think that all of this is just a coincidence?" Tunton's gaze turned sharp. "What do you mean?" The Fox Emperor's tone was still as calm as water as he recounted. Back then, when the Cat clan was in the midst of an uprising, the Demon Emperor and Demon Empress were filled with hatred and rage. We couldn't pacify them. When Jiao Ming was captured by the Demon Emperor himself and was about to be executed on the spot, more than 10 of our brothers begged to save him. He was then imprisoned in the Demon Soul prison, never to come out again. For so many years, Jiao Ming didn't see the light of day in the Demon Soul prison, but he didn't suffer much either. His cultivation base was even improving day by day, stronger than before. The Fox Emperor sighed. "I'm not trying to claim credit in front of you by revealing this case, but it's not like we've done nothing all these years. We can't completely control the Demon Emperor's will, and we can't save Jiao Ming from the Demon Soul prison. But if we want to do something, it's still very easy in the Demon Clan." Tunton's eyes suddenly lit up. "Your Majesty is fine." The Fox Emperor nodded. "Of course, I know that empty words are not enough to win your trust, but you can think back to the time when your Cat clan was attacked in the 9 Extinction Abyss and inexplicably escaped danger. At the 10,000 feet peak, in the domain of ultimate ice, in the clear towering sea, including yourself. You were heavily injured in the Golden Light Dragon domain, but ultimately escaped unscathed. How could there be no reason? So it was you who helped." Tunton's gaze completely changed. Previously, it was hatred and resentment, but now, there was a hint of gratitude in its gaze. The things that the Fox Emperor mentioned were major events that concerned the life and death of important figures to the surviving Cat clan. Moreover, all of these things had really been averted under inexplicable circumstances. If this had only happened once or twice, or 1 or 2 clans, they could still say that it was a coincidence. But how could it be a coincidence that it had happened so many times? Since it wasn't a coincidence, it must have been the doing of a demon. One should know that the demon involved in the Fox Emperor's stories had all used the appearance of an incarnation, and not their original appearance. The fact that the Fox Emperor knew everything about it was enough to prove that what he had said was true, and not a single bit of falsehood. This was because the past events that he had mentioned were enough to wipe out the remaining cat clan in one fell swoop. Moreover, he could do it too many times. I can't dare to take all of this credit for myself, the Fox Emperor said. When the incident happened back then, the Phoenix Emperor came to discuss with us and asked me, and the Rock Emperor to protect you in secret. The Tiger Emperor and the Panther Emperor were to come into direct contact with you. No matter what, we can't let the Nine Lives Cat clan completely disappear from the demon race. But it's also true that not all of us are brothers. Only the 5 of us participated in this incident back then. We didn't dare to let them know about the rest. After all, there are many demon races' mouths, and their intentions are unfathomable. The Fox Emperor sighed. Cat Queen, do you still remember the final ambush against your Nine Lives Cat clan? It was also the Phoenix Emperor who secretly intervened, allowing most of you to have room to hide and escape. Tuntun's heart was in turmoil for a moment, and she didn't know what to say. For so many years, she had always complained that the Cat Emperor had so many so-called brothers back then, but none of them had stepped forward to speak a word of justice. Who would have thought that it was those brothers who had always been protecting the safety of the cat race, doing their best to continue the survival of the cat race? It seems that the Cat Queen doesn't resent me so much. I hope that the Cat Queen will not feel grateful to me because of this, because, although we have so many years of brotherhood in our hearts, no matter what, we will still save one of Jojo's life and the survival of his clan. But if you want us to help you save the 9 lives, or directly rebel against the Demon Emperor, it's impossible. Seeing that Tuntun's hostility had disappeared, the Fox Emperor spoke bluntly and directly pointed out the crux of the matter. Of course I understand that. Tuntun took a deep breath and smiled bitterly. Emperors, you have already done your best to do this. How would we dare to ask for more? The Fox Emperor nodded and said, if the Cat Queen really remembers this, I hope that the Cat Queen can do me a favor. This favor? Just take it that I'm shamelessly asking for a favor. He chuckled bitterly and said, I believe that the Cat Queen knows that my son's situation is dire now. His soul and spirit are almost destroyed, and there's nothing we can do to save him. Only Yin Yang has a way to bring him back to life. Tuntun blinked and said in surprise, the Yin Yang that the Fox Emperor mentioned, is he the descendant of the Fox clan who has stirred up a storm? This child can summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand, shaking the foundation of the demon realm in just a short period of time. He's indeed a genius of the Fox clan. It's just that the Fox Emperor's question is a little odd. Our clan is in a precarious situation. How would we dare to provoke such a calamity? The Fox Emperor's expression darkened as he said eerily, Cat Queen, I've come with great sincerity, even revealing the past. I want to do my best to save my beloved son's life. I really don't have the heart to listen to the Cat Queen's sophistry. Tuntun's heart skipped a beat. He thought for a moment and said, I need to know why your majesty thinks that I can contact Yin Yang. The Fox Emperor spoke slowly. I believe that with your intelligence network, you should know that this emperor has launched the largest and most extreme mental energy investigation a few days ago. It was all for Yin Yang. I really have to admire Yin Yang. His unique arcane skill is truly remarkable. Even though this emperor has tried his best and given his all, it's still difficult to locate his whereabouts. However, this emperor's search isn't entirely fruitless. This emperor has realized that ever since the imperial city gathered a large number of holy monarchs to search for Yin Yang, not only has Yin Yang not tried to hide himself, he's purposely revealed his tracks time and time again to create chaos. Other than trying his best to avoid the holy monarchs, the trail of the chaos also revolves around a certain direction. Coincidentally, there are a few remaining members of the Cat clan in that direction. How can this emperor not connect the dots? With the current chaotic state of the demon race, you will never let go of such an opportunity. As a human, the only force that Yin Yang can use and have a certain degree of trust in the demon realm is you. Therefore, you are the only demon race that can possibly contact Yun Yang. Of course, I have to give it a try. I wonder if Cat Mistress agrees with my statement? Tunton lowered his head and thought for a moment before saying, I need to consider this matter. The Fox Emperor knew that Tunton's words were no different from giving in. However, this was a serious matter. As a collaborator, she had to discuss it with Yun Yang before she could come to a conclusion. Seeing that the situation had taken a turn for the better, the Fox Emperor could not help but sigh in relief. Thank you. Tunton's eyes darted around as he said, Tunton, I'd like to ask Your Majesty a bold question. If this matter succeeds, what benefits will the Nine Lives clan gain? The Fox Emperor's face twitched. When Yun Yang received Tunton's message, it was already a day later. Regarding the matter of the Fox Emperor's rescue, he pondered for a full hour before he made a decision. The Fox Emperor's invitation was a risky one. Out of caution, Yun Yang actually did not want to have such face-to-face contact with him again. However, the current situation was out of balance once again. His side was already on the decline, and the Fox Emperor had confirmed that Yun Yang was related to the feline clan. As long as the feline clan was targeted, all of Yun Yang's plans and hard work during this period of time would be for naught. The crisis would only worsen. It was also a fact that the Fox Emperor's beloved son, the Crown Prince Fox, was in a precarious state. Yun Yang was fairly confident that the Fox Emperor's invitation this time was sincere. Lastly, there was another reason. Yun Yang had too many reasons for the Crown Prince Fox's misfortune today. When the Fox Emperor had given Yun Yang the token, it had been out of goodwill. Now that he had met such a terrible end, Yun Yang could not help but feel a tinge of discomfort in his heart, even if they were on opposing sides and of different races. If he could use this opportunity to resolve this issue, it would be a good thing for Yun Yang. It was unknown if it was because clarity of thought, but after Yun Yang had made this decision, he felt his state of mind becoming clearer, and his cultivation base vaguely showed signs of improvement. It was still the same small tavern. Yun Yang had transformed into a tiger demon that was only at the level of a Saint King, while the Fox Emperor opposite him had retracted his aura. In addition, he had only sent a clone here, leaving his true self in the residence of the Fox King to fool the demon. However, Yun Yang was confident that he could escape if he were to face a clone. I have to say, you have guts, child. The Fox Emperor looked at Yun Yang, his expression dark. If Yun Yang had not caused trouble, his beloved son would never have met with such a calamity. One of the conditions for causing trouble was that he had given the Fox Emperor's token. It was hard to tell the cause and effect of this. Now, Yun Yang had come to meet his nemesis, who should have eaten his flesh and slept on his skin. His guts were truly impressive. Your Majesty, you flatter me. Yun Yang chuckled humorlessly. Yun Yang has truly let down the Fox Emperor's kindness that day, and has repaid the consequences. I hereby offer my sincere apologies. The Fox Emperor sighed and said, You have your reasons, but I'm not in the position to criticize your actions. Our races are different. Hatred in the usual sense is not suitable for our current situation. When we first met, I've already recognized that you're a rare talent of the human race. Giving you my token was 50% kindness. The other 50% was to supervise and even capture you. It's just that once you left, you've completely severed the effect of the Fox Emperor's token. I'm even more impressed. Yun Yang said, Your Majesty's breadth of mind is as vast as the sea. Yun Yang is utterly impressed. There's no need for more flattery. I'll clarify my stance once again. I only want to save my son's life now. In this world, perhaps only you have this ability. Yun Yang said in surprise. Your Majesty has overestimated Yun Yang. According to what I know, His Highness the Crown Prince's injuries are already severe. After the failed rescue attempt by the Dragon and Phoenix Emperors, his condition has deteriorated rapidly. How can Your Majesty Fox Emperor believe that Yun Yang has the ability to bring the dead back to life? The Fox Emperor glared at Yun Yang. Don't lie in front of a real person. You, Yun Yang, possess many mystical arcane skills that allow you to do what others can't. Whether it's forcefully harvesting the vitality of the soul-devouring tree, crafting precious spiritual materials and spiritual roots of various races, or the ability to transform into countless beings. It all proves that your background is extraordinary and your skills are even more extraordinary. Now that my life is hanging by a thread, you're my last hope. Who else should I look for if not you? As for whether you're willing to lend a helping hand, whether it's a favor or a grudge, it's all up to you. The Fox Emperor's words were sincere, but he had also laid out the key to the relationship between both parties. If the Fox Crown Prince was saved in the end, the Fox Emperor would see Yun Yang as his benefactor. If not, he would see Yun Yang as the culprit who had caused his son's death. Yun Yang was quick-witted, grasping the situation in an instant. He asked, "May I ask how His Highness is now? What are the specific symptoms?" "He's close to having his soul and spirit destroyed," the Fox Emperor said. "The Phoenix Emperor has used the Phoenix clan's arcane skill, soul-searching and soul-gathering, to gather my son's scattered soul. However, the previous rescue failed, so there's only half a month left. I'd like to try one last time." He then explained the situation of the Fox Crown Prince's nine-tailed jade. Yun Yang looked like he was deep in thought, but he was actually asking Emmy, "Is there a chance to turn around such a fatal injury? If not, tell me straight away. I'll be ready to leave." "Aya." Emmy put on a proud look. "It meant. Why are you flinching? Is there a need for such a small gesture? Look at how inexperienced you are. You're a disgrace to this lord." Although Yun Yang was ridiculed, he was relieved. If Emmy said it was a small gesture, then it was a small gesture. It was not worth anything. The Fox Crown Prince's condition is a little too serious. I wonder how Lord Fox Emperor would like me to help. Please tell me clearly, Your Majesty. If it's within my means, Yun Yang won't reject it. Yun Yang asked tentatively. Yun Yang dared not take on everything at this juncture and say that the Fox Emperor's son's life was in his hands. It was a small matter. He had to confirm what the Fox Emperor was asking for and what kind of bargaining chip he could offer before he could proceed to the next step. "I remember that you have quite a lot of ethereal amethysts with you. Give me 100 of them. I'll use them to set up the reversal formation." The Fox Emperor looked exhausted. "I know it's a little too much to ask for so many ethereal amethysts from you, but this is already a necessary amount. This heaven reversal formation uses all the lords of my clan and I as the starting point, burning half of my life force, half of my spiritual energy, and half of my cultivation base, to complete the heaven-defying process of returning my soul to its origin. Only then can my son have a 10% chance to come back to life and return to his original state in this lifetime." Yun Yang was shocked. Huh. Yun Yang's shock was filled with surprise and shock. If the Fox Emperor's plan worked, the Fox Emperor's realm would at least fall below the level of a Saint Emperor after sacrificing half of his cultivation base. The Fox clan would then lose their pillar of support. Whether the Fox Emperor could see the Fox Crown Prince come back to life was still uncertain, but it was certain that he would not be able to return to his original cultivation base in this lifetime. Also, the Fox Emperor's words don't seem to match up with the things you said when you invited me on a date. Weren't you planning on asking me to find a way to save your son? I'm ready to take off my pants, and this is all you're saying to me? Do you only want a belt and some ethereal amethysts? Faced with Yin Yang's surprise, the Fox Emperor smiled humorlessly. This is what I'm asking for. You don't have to worry about my threat anymore. Even if I manage to get that 10% chance to save my son, my ability will be reduced by more than 60%. With your advancement, I'm afraid I'll never be your opponent in this lifetime in a few years. Yin Yang was moved. Your Majesty, the Fox Emperor's love for your son. Yin Yang is truly touched. Other than a bitter smile, the Fox Emperor could not muster up any other expression. I don't even know if I can save my queen by doing this. My queen looks at me like she's looking at her mortal enemy. Now that things have come to this is my last resort. The Fox Emperor was completely honest now. He told him everything that he could and could not say, including the Fox Queen's reaction. He chuckled bitterly again. If you don't have so many ethereal amethysts on you, I won't force you and send you back to the Blood Soul Mountain. I believe Hibuyu and the rest should have some. If you have enough ethereal amethysts on you, I can detonate my clone to shatter the void and send you back to the Bloodsoul Mountain safely. What do you think? This was the Fox Emperor's offer. It was extremely beneficial and tempting to Yun Yang. He knew that what Yun Yang wanted the most right now was to go back. The sooner he did, the safer it would be. As for the Fox Emperor, even the other sovereigns such as the Fox Emperor and the Phoenix Emperor, they might be hoping that this menace would disappear for good as soon as possible. Although it would be best if they could capture him and solve the problem once and for all. If they could not capture him, the chaos in the demon race would never be pacified. It might not be a bad idea to let this troublemaking and slippery fellow leave as soon as possible. The Phoenix Emperor's fear towards Yun Yang was real, but it was not related to the near future. At the very least, he would not be a direct threat in the next 3,000 to 5,000 years. As for the future, who could be sure? Although Yun Yang is a rare prodigy and should be eradicated, the demonic race does not have a good way to deal with such a monstrous genius. Instead of keeping him in the demonic race, it would be better to let him go back. I heard that the human race is the best at infighting. Who knows, a certain prodigy might be killed by some envious human. Who could be sure? Yun Yang thought about it for a while and said, I understand, Your Majesty, but if this is the case, Your Majesty, I'm afraid your days in the future will be very difficult. The future of the fox race will be even more difficult to look forward to. The Fox Emperor sighed dejectedly. How could he not be aware of this? However, he could not care so much now that the situation was dire. He could only take it one step at a time. Speaking of which, the Fox Crown Prince's current fortuitous encounter is largely due to me. If I don't do my best, I'll really feel bad. I have another method that can help the Fox Crown Prince recover. Furthermore, after he regains his clarity of mind, he can return to the state he was in before he was injured, or even better. Also, the problem with the Fox Empress isn't a big problem. The price that His Majesty, the Fox Emperor, paid is too great. There's really no need. Yun Yang spoke slowly, but the meaning behind his words was sudden and earth-shattering. The Fox Emperor's gaze froze. What did you say? You have such a method? Although the Fox Emperor's words were filled with doubt, he did not have the intention to question Yun Yang. The Fox Emperor's previous request was much easier for Yun Yang to fulfill. With Yun Yang's intelligence, he would not have done something like this unless he was truly confident. However, how could Yun Yang do what the Dragon and Phoenix Emperors could not? Yun Yang said, the way to deal with the Fox Empress is the easiest. Whatever Your Majesty originally intended to do, we'll still do it the same way. Make it as big as possible. Her Highness the Fox Empress will naturally see the great price Your Majesty has paid for her son, and the child has been saved. She'll love you twice as much in the future. As for Your Majesty, you actually don't have to pay anything. All you need is to put on an act. The Fox Emperor glared at Yun Yang. May I ask how my son is going to recover? My son's recovery is the basis of today's invitation. I'm also using the ethereal amethyst to set up a formation, but it's not a formation of reversal. Instead, I'm using the ethereal amethyst's spiritual essence to build a blessed land that's similar to a paradise. Then, I'll infuse the Qi of Tao into the Fox Crown Prince, complemented by the Qi of Vitality to maintain his vitality. Finally, I'll use the Qi of Reincarnation to reconstruct his soul. Then I'll complete the task. Yun Yang spoke slowly. There's no chance of failure in such a method. When the Crown Prince wakes up, it'll be the moment he returns to normal. In addition, there's a 30% chance that the Fox Crown Prince will become an unprecedented genius among the demon race. It's not impossible for him to ascend to the position of the Demon Emperor in the future and unify the demon realm. The Fox Emperor's expression changed when he heard Yun Yang's words. He stared at Yun Yang with a pair of sharp eyes, immediately understanding what Yun Yang meant. Was he planning to plant a seed that would never rest in peace for the demon race? Despite knowing Yun Yang's true intentions, he could not reject the offer. This was because it was a win-win situation for the Fox clan. Moreover, the Fox Emperor's attitude toward the Demon Emperor had undergone a drastic change. He thought about it and said faintly, of course, that would be best. However, the Qi of Tao, the chi of vitality, and the chi of reincarnation. Can you bring them out? Can you bear to do it? Yin Yang smiled reservedly and said, Has your Majesty forgotten all the guesses you've made about me? I'm not afraid to tell your Majesty that my master is the only person in the bound of universe whose cultivation base has reached above the saint realm, the level of a starry sky. There's a reason why I could reach my current level in my 20s. This was a solid piece of evidence. It was a reality that no one in the entire world, be it a demon, could deny. Yin Yang's cultivation base and age had always been a reality that could not be understood or equated. Even the current demon emperor, widely acknowledged as the top genius of the demon race, had spent thousands of years to reach the level of supreme saint. There was also the Fox Crown Prince, the nine-tailed jade fox. The Fox Emperor had personally watched his son's growth and had deemed him the top genius of the Fox clan since the beginning of time. However, his cultivation base was merely mediocre after 1,000 years of diligent cultivation. The Fox Emperor stood up and paced around before saying, You must have an ulterior motive for bringing this up. It's not as simple as returning to the Crimson Soul Mountain, is it? Yin Yang smiled with his eyes squinted. Of course I have my conditions. Chapter 1323. Any condition is negotiable, but it's impossible for me to help you save the 9 lives cat. Before Yin Yang could state his condition, the Fox Emperor had already sealed his mouth, his gaze stern. Hearing that the Fox Emperor had sealed the door in advance, Yin Yang's handsome face darkened. Fox Emperor, go save your son yourself then. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. The reversal formation that you've come up with may seem feasible, but it's the most dangerous way to fight against heaven's will. According to your demon race's strong physique, which contradicts the heaven and earth, even if you sacrifice the entire Fox clan, it's impossible for your son to return to his original state, much less half of your cultivation base and soul. The Fox Emperor's expression darkened as well. It's impossible to save the 9 lives cat. Change your condition. Yin Yang said stubbornly, I've done everything I need to do in the demon realm. There's only one last thing left. I've been entrusted with a task, and I'm loyal to it. If you help me achieve my wish, I'll save your son without any distractions. The Foxy Emperor looked glum and said after a moment of hesitation, Yin Yang, whether it's you or the entire feline clan, you've underestimated the matter of saving the 9 lives. Why do you think we brothers didn't release the 9 lives secretly? The problem is that a place like the Demon Soul Prison is extremely sensitive to the cultivation level of the invaders. Once Emperor Realm experts like us enter, the Demon Monarch will immediately sense it and send his doppelgangers. Sacrificing 9 lives is just for the sake of brotherhood, but if we go against the Demon Monarch, it's no different from betraying the demon race. I have my opinion on the Demon Emperor, but I can't betray the entire demon race. What do you mean by that? Yin Yang was bewildered, unable to comprehend the situation. You still don't understand. To be able to fish the demons out of the demonic soul prison, one has to at least have the ability of the Demon Emperor level. The Fox Emperor sighed helplessly. Do you understand now? If I intervene, I'll only be a hindrance to all of you. It won't help. Yin Yang reminded. You don't have to do it yourself. There's a difference in ability between the Demon Emperors. You can send a subordinate whose cultivation base has reached this level to transform into a demonic cat, and it'll be enough. The Fox Emperor glared at him. You've already thought of what to do in such a short amount of time? Should I say that you have a sharp mind, or that you are scheming and plotting against the law? It's very easy to be discovered, and the success rate is still not high. It's also possible that the last of the 9 lives cat clan's resources will be used up. Even if your subordinate's true identity is discovered, you can still say that the fox demon was bewitched by me. Although he belongs to the Fox clan, he's actually a human subordinate. It has nothing to do with you then. Yin Yang continued. As for the 9 lives cat clan, you don't have to worry about it. F***CK, you've even prepared a scapegoat for me? The Fox Emperor's gaze became even more unfriendly, and his eyes were filled with coldness. If it still doesn't work, just say that everything was instructed by the Fox Empress. Then, let your wife go and find the demon emperor to make a scene, directly scolding in front of the demon imperial palace. Even if the demon emperor was unwilling, he could only turn the big matter into a small matter, and the small matter into nothing. A woman is weak, but a mother is strong. For a mother who is on the verge of death, no matter what she does, it is understandable, isn't it? Yin Yang concluded. The Fox Emperor's lips twitched violently. This move was simply too vicious. His wife was known as the top beauty of the demon clan back in the day. Of course, there was nothing wrong with that. But her reputation as the most venomous mouth was even higher than the title of the top beauty. With the demon emperor's temper, he could be scolded so badly by his wife. Whether the demon emperor could save his son, as well as the mediation of the Phoenix Emperor and the other sovereigns, could indeed turn a big matter into a small one, and a small one into nothing. After all, the Phoenix Emperor and the other sovereigns also hoped that the cat ancestor's 9 lives could be released, and that he could escape. Are you sure you really have what you've said? I can show you the item, and inspect it first. Yin Yang was very generous. Tunton the cat has told me about your kindness towards the cat clan. I can heal your son first, and you can help us after that. They trust you, and I'm willing to trust you as well. The Fox Emperor's eyes shone. Looking at Yin Yang's gaze, there was genuine admiration. How generous. Indeed, his son's matter could not be delayed any longer. You flatter me, Yin Yang said. What do you think of this collaboration? The Fox Emperor thought about it, and felt that it was not a big deal. If it had been before, the Fox Emperor would never have such a thought. But his current state of mind was completely different from before. You've already put my son to death. What's wrong with me saving an old brother from your demonic soul prison? What's wrong with that? Do you believe that I won't let my wife scold the demon emperor until you cry and melt? If that's the case, it's a deal. However, the Fox clan can only send 2 Saint Lords at most, and our identities cannot be exposed. Thank you, Your Majesty. Then come back with me and talk to my wife about everything related to this matter. Treat my son while you're at it. Then cough. The Fox Emperor coughed twice and said, Let's go according to what you said earlier. We have to go through the Empress first. I understand. Yin Yang gave him a look that said, We're all men, we know each other's difficulties, and vowed. I may not be good at other things, but my acting skills have never been inferior to others. The series of changes was out of Yin Yang's expectation. The situation had changed from an extremely unfavorable one to a promising one. Since the Fox Emperor had agreed, he would not go back on his word. Yin Yang trusted an expert like the Fox Emperor very much. If the Demon Emperor, who hated him to the core, promised to let him go back to the mouth of Crimson Soul, Yin Yang could totally reveal his true self from the Demon Peacock City and walk back to the mouth of Crimson Soul. This was the demeanor of a Saint Lord. The level of a Saint Lord was not a level that an ordinary cultivator could achieve. One had to have a corresponding state of mind and cultivation base. A Saint Lord could not be like a saint and follow his words, but once he acted against his conscience, it would taint his flawless state of mind. Going back on one's word was something that could not be done no matter what, because it would be cutting off one's path to becoming a saint. The Fox Emperor tore through the void and returned to the Fox Emperor's residence, entering the secret chamber. It's about to begin, said the Fox Emperor. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Nothing will go wrong. Yin Yang looked sheepish before he reverted to his original self and waited quietly. The Fox Emperor chuckled bitterly. He did not expect himself to fall to the point where he had to rely on someone else to deceive his own wife. However, this was a critical juncture, and the situation was urgent. After a while, the Fox Empress followed the Fox Emperor in with a cold expression. As the 2 foxes entered, the space was completely sealed by the Fox Emperor, leaving him alone. The Fox Empress was surprised to see a human sitting in the secret chamber. I am Yin Yang. Greetings, Your Highness. So it's sect leader Yin. The Fox Empress remembered that the Fox Emperor had said that this human was the only hope to save her son. Her eyes brightened and her tone became polite. Even if Yin Yang's other identity was the culprit behind the chaos in the demon race, to a mother, Nothing was more important than her child's life. As for the future of the demon race, the demon emperor has already given up on us. Why should I care? Who is going to mess with the demon race? I heard that sect leader Yin has a way to save my son. The Fox Empress' eyes were filled with anticipation. Yin Yang sighed and said, I owe His Majesty the Foxy Emperor a favor in this matter. There is indeed a way, but it's rather difficult to carry it out. The danger is secondary, and the price that the caster has to pay is even greater. There's no doubt that there will be repercussions in the future. I have to explain the details clearly in front of the Fox Emperor and Fox Empress. The treatment method I can provide is exceptionally complicated. If there's any carelessness, I'm afraid the person involved will have to bear the risk of having his soul destroyed. Please remember this, Your Majesty the Fox Emperor, and Your Highness the Fox Empress. There mustn't be any mistakes, or else it'll only be a burden to both parties and the situation. The Fox Empress became serious at once. She took a deep breath and said, Sir, please speak. Without further ado, Yun Yang took out 100 pieces of ethereal amethysts. Immediately, the secret chamber was filled with an unprecedented amount of spiritual energy, filled with purple. The Fox Empress was shocked. When the Phoenix Emperor saved the Fox Crown Prince previously, he had said that if there were 100 pieces of ethereal amethysts in hand, the success rate of the treatment would be greatly increased. However, the entire demon race had not been able to gather 100 pieces in the end. Everything else aside, these 100 pieces of ethereal amethysts were already a huge sum of money and a huge favor. After Yun Yang took out 100 pieces of ethereal amethysts, he took out another 100 pieces of supreme-grade spiritual jade and placed them on the side as well. The Fox Empress' eyes shone even brighter. Human spiritual jade was rare in the demon race. A mediocre spiritual jade could be used as a betrothal gift or even a family heirloom. Supreme-grade spiritual jade, on the other hand, was rare even for a human with a high cultivation base. Now that Yun Yang had taken out so many ethereal amethysts and so many pieces of supreme-grade spiritual jade, his generosity could no longer be described with the word huge. At the very least, it had boosted the Fox Empress' confidence in Yun Yang's success. Yun Yang drew a circle on the ground and instructed solemnly, During the treatment, the Crown Prince's body will be placed here. Later, I'll use the supreme-grade spiritual jade as the material to make a jade bottle to store the Crown Prince's soul. This way, it will fit the Crown Prince's body to the greatest extent. The first step of the treatment is to set up the soul sealing formation with 100 pieces of ethereal amethysts as the formation base. This soul sealing formation is limited to 3 steps. It can't be exceeded, or it'll be detrimental to the Crown Prince's soul. The Fox Emperor nodded slowly. That won't be a problem, Yun Yang said. The second step is to use these 100 pieces of supreme-grade spiritual jade to set up the heavenly sealing formation to conceal this place. The energy of the soul sealing formation will be completely sealed, not letting any of it leak out. The Fox Emperor thought about it and said, This can be done as well. I'll set up the heaven and earth cage in advance to seal off the space, then seal off the energy from leaking out further. It should be safe. The Fox Empress' breathing quickened. She was an experienced and knowledgeable person, so she understood the possibility of the method Yun Yang was talking about. It was designed specifically for her son's condition. At least, it had been extremely effective up until now. The third step requires a second-level Saint Monarch cultivator in each of the 4 sides to activate the energy of the ethereal amethysts with their own cultivation base. The energy contained within these 100 pieces of ethereal amethysts must be unleashed to its maximum extent within a quarter of an hour. As for the soul sealing formation, not a single bit of it must leak out. Any loss will be a regret for the Fox Crown Prince. This time, before the Fox Emperor could speak, the Fox Empress had already said hurriedly, This can be done. I'll be in charge of this personally. There won't be any mistakes. Yun Yang shook his head. The Fox Empress can't be in charge of this. Are there any other candidates? Yes, the Fox Emperor answered. That's good, that's good. Yun Yang nodded repeatedly, What do I have to do then? The Fox Empress asked anxiously. The Fox Empress has something more important and more dangerous at the same time, Yin Yang said. As he spoke, he extended an arm and said, Your Majesty, look at this spot on my arm. It's right here. My master has sealed a stream of chi of vitality here for me in case of emergencies. The chi of vitality. The Fox Empress was shocked. She looked at Yin Yang's arm, where there was a faint wisp of chi, but it was not obvious. She was shocked. There was actually someone among the humans who could seal the chi of vitality? This stream of chi of vitality is the key to saving the Fox Crown Prince. It needs to be unleashed at the moment when the ethereal amethysts are unleashed to their maximum extent. Fox Empress, take it out and transfer it to the Crown Prince's mouth at once. Not a single bit of it must leak out, because I only have this one. Once there's a mistake, all my previous efforts will go to waste. Yin Yang said seriously. This is the most important part. There must not be a single mistake. The Fox Empress breathing quickened as she looked at Yin Yang's wrist. She gritted her teeth and said, No problem. Although she said it was not a problem, the Fox Empress' hands were trembling. Looking at the chi of vitality that was sealed, it was like looking at her own son's life. However, this alone is not enough. Yin Yang said, The fifth step requires 16 Saint Lords to work together and protect the Crown Prince's soul to return to his body at the cost of sacrificing part of their life force. Since the Fox Crown Prince's soul is riddled with cracks, there can't be any mishaps. Otherwise, even if the treatment is successful and the Crown Prince comes back to life, his brain won't be functioning well. Yin Yang said vaguely, This isn't a problem either. The Fox Emperor promised. Alright, then this is the final sixth step. Since the Fox Crown Prince's soul is shattered, a stream of chi of Tao needs to be injected into his soul during the process of receiving it to repair the cracks completely. Only by merging with the shattered soul in this manner can the cracks be healed completely. Yin Yang said solemnly, This chi of Tao is also my protection. There's only one of it. This step isn't difficult, but it's the most dangerous one. The Fox Emperor and the Fox Empress understood that Yin Yang wanted to continue. The chi of Tao. Who wouldn't want it? With so many Saint Lords watching, how could he not have the slightest bit of selfishness? This was the most difficult part. Today is Brother Draconic Glacier's birthday. Let us wish him a happy birthday. Glacier has been with me for 9 years, ever since the evil Lord. Brother, thank you for being with me all the way. Happy birthday, GT. Chapter 1324. Yin Yang said solemnly. Vertices X23 US. When the chi of Tao is used on the Crown Prince, its effect is only limited to fusing his soul. It's like casting pearls before swine. If it's used on other Saint Lords, it can allow them to connect to Tao. Whenever the chi of Tao appears, the commotion is never small. It's difficult to conceal or seal it off. The attraction of the chi of Tao has always been slow. It's impossible for it to disappear all at once. It's a relatively long process. All the Saint Lords in this secret chamber, who are involved in this matter, will be able to see it and touch it. If someone with ulterior motives tries to steal the chi of the great Tao at this moment, then apart from this spy, the other great sages will suffer a considerable degree of backlash. And at this time, the Fox Empress should still be escorting the chi of life and slowly absorbing it. She can't be distracted. The Fox Empress paled. This was something that no one dared to guarantee. If the chi of Tao appeared, it would be normal for even the most loyal of subordinates to have second thoughts at that moment. This was the most uncontrollable situation. This can only be done by me personally. I have to fuse it into my son's soul as quickly as possible. The Fox Emperor's expression was solemn as he sighed. Yin Yang is right. No one can trust this. The Fox Empress' gaze on the Fox Emperor softened. The people who would never harm a child in this world were the child's biological parents. She could still trust the Fox Emperor. However, it's too dangerous for Your Majesty the Fox Emperor. His Majesty the Fox Emperor has to participate and monitor the entire process, and be on guard at all times. Just maintaining the spiritual energy of the ethereal amethysts and spiritual jade will require more than 90% of the Fox Emperor's energy. Add to that the work of fusing the qi of Tao. It's more than 100 pounds. Isn't it too difficult? Yin Yang frowned. Don't worry about it. I'm used to multitasking. I'll only need to activate the energy ignition arcane for a moment, and I'll be able to complete the entire treatment process. The Fox Emperor patted his chest confidently and gave Yin Yang a discreet look of approval. This child really knows what to do. His idea was even more thorough and flawless than what I had thought of myself. It's not that I doubt His Majesty, the Fox Emperor, but what the Fox Emperor has done has increased the risk by more than 30%. If anything goes wrong, His Majesty, the Fox Emperor, will at the very least pay the price of a heavy injury to his spirit. He might even die because of this. Yin Yang was hesitant. Besides, it's not enough even if you're multitasking. Other than ensuring the leakage of the two spiritual crystals' energy and protecting the qi of Tao into the Crown Prince's soul, Your Majesty the Fox Emperor still has another task that must be done by you. The Fox Queen's face turned pale. She was also a great expert in cultivation, so how could she not know that while protecting the qi of the great Tao from entering the child's soul, he also had to seal off the entire space with all his might to prevent the energy of the spirit crystals from leaking out. For the Fox Emperor, this was already a tremendous amount of pressure. He was already in danger of dying. Now there were actually other things to do? What else do you have to do? The Fox Queen's voice was trembling. Yin Yang sighed and said, This is the real last step. The Crown Prince's soul has shattered. Logically speaking, the Crown Prince is already dead, and his soul should enter the cycle of reincarnation. However, we're forcefully retaining him with the art of stealing heaven, intending to revive the dead. This itself goes against the workings of heaven's will. To make the entire healing process a complete success, we have to use the qi of reincarnation to build a passage with the effect of reincarnation at this last moment, so that the soul can pass through the passage. The qi of reincarnation. The Fox Queen's body trembled. The qi of reincarnation might not be as precious as the qi of Tao, but it was not much easier to find than the latter. It was something that could only be found once in tens of thousands of years. Don't worry, Fox Queen. I have the qi of reincarnation as well. Of course, I only have one. Yin Yang said. Perhaps both of you don't know this, but the first thing we have to face when building this reincarnation passage is the mystery of the fetus, which is the soul force of the parents involved. Only with the soul force of the parents can we truly steal heaven and earth. I don't think I need to explain more about this, do I? The Fox Queen nodded. Of course, she understood this point. When a living being reincarnated into this world, it had to go through the nurturing of the father's essence and mother's blood, which was also the cause of the mystery of the fetus. The method that Yin Yang mentioned was probably to give birth to the child again. If Yin Yang had mentioned the qi of reincarnation before agreeing to give the qi of Tao, the Fox Queen might have been extremely grateful, but she might not have lost her composure like this. With the more precious qi of Tao before her, the qi of reincarnation's preciousness paled in comparison. However, to the Fox Queen, the qi of reincarnation was more important than the qi of Tao. This was the foundation of her son's survival. Of course, under the trio of qi of vitality, qi of Tao, and qi of reincarnation, the Fox Queen's gratitude towards Yin Yang had reached its peak. Anyone could see this. Once the Fox Crown Prince was successfully rescued, the Fox Queen would become Yin Yang's diehard fan. She would look up to him and never waver in this lifetime. Looking at the Fox Queen's teary eyes, Yin Yang sighed and said, In this case, Your Majesty's workload will be even heavier. The method of reincarnation of your parents' soul energy is not difficult, but it's most taboo to be disturbed. The Fox Emperor grew more delighted. The more difficult and dangerous it is, the better. However, his expression did not show it. It's fine. Even if I have to multitask, it's not a problem for me. For my son's life, what's a little risk? Yin Yang's expression turned odd. Multitask? I'm afraid it's more than that. At this time, Her Highness the Fox Queen has probably finished escorting the qi of vitality, so there's still some room to maneuver. I believe Her Highness the Fox Queen will be fine. But Your Majesty, you're not only multitasking, You're also responsible for the Qi of Tao and sealing the space from beginning to end. And Yin Yang coughed and did not continue. The Fox Queen's lips trembled as she said, "Not multitasking. He has to be responsible for a total of 4 tasks. Other than maintaining the sealing of the space to prevent the spiritual essence from leaking, he also has to divide his attention to prevent any accidents from happening, protect the Qi of Tao after that, and finally, reincarnate the soul. All of these require a great deal of effort from him. Is this multitasking?" As she spoke, she glanced at the Fox Emperor, her gaze filled with apprehension and worry. Yin Yang nodded and said, "The Fox Queen is right. This is what I'm truly worried about. The key to this rescue plan lies with Your Majesty, the Fox Emperor. However, there's still a flaw that I have to make clear first. Even if everything goes smoothly and no accidents happen, Your Majesty will still have to pay a certain level of exhaustion." The Fox Queen paled and asked, "Exhaustion? What level of exhaustion? Sect Leader Yin, please tell me." Yin Yang paused and said after some deliberation, "It's not too much of an exhaustion. He'll probably be weak for 30 to 50 years. Then he'll be back to normal." The Fox Queen paled even more. Weak for 30 to 50 years? For someone of the Fox Emperor's level, this was not considered a serious exhaustion. However, a smart person would habitually overthink things. The premise of being weak for 30 to 50 years was that everything would go smoothly, and there would be no accidents. What if something went wrong? The Fox Queen wanted to ask this question, but she could not bring herself to do so. Saving her son was her greatest wish. Even if she had to exchange her life for it, she would not hesitate. However, the price she had to pay now was related to her husband's safety. What if she ended up losing her husband in order to save her son? Losing the 2 most important men in her life at the same time was an outcome she could not accept. Even if it was a 1-for-1 exchange, she had no other choice. The Fox Emperor asked calmly, "What if it doesn't go well?" Yin Yang answered, "If it doesn't go well, at least half of one's cultivation base, spiritual force, or deific consciousness will be lost. It'll be hard to recover in this lifetime. If it's more serious, like if Lord Fox Emperor expends too much energy during the process of protection and can't sustain it, whether it's the Qi of Tao or the Qi of reincarnation, one's soul will be destroyed on the spot. There'll be no chance of survival." The Fox Emperor remained calm, not saying a word, as if he was not the one involved. The Fox Queen was trembling, her eyes widening, her face as pale as a sheet. Yin Yang acted as if he did not see it and said, "Therefore, preparations must be made in advance for this treatment. If everything goes well, it'll be a blessing, but if there's a setback, we'll have to make a choice then. The choice is when things don't go well, when there's a ripple in the soul. If we insist on the treatment then, there's hope for the Crown Prince to recover, but the price he'll have to pay in the meantime will be paid by the Fox Emperor. On the other hand, if the treatment stops abruptly, Your Majesty will only have to pay 100 years of recuperation, while the Crown Prince's soul will be destroyed from then on, never to return. At the end of the day, should the situation worsen, would the adult or the child be saved?" After that, the Fox Emperor and his wife fell silent for a long time. Yin Yang sighed and said, "If the Fox Emperor had come to me earlier, there's no need to go through so much trouble. With the Qi of Tao and the Qi of reincarnation, the Crown Prince's soul can be easily repaired. With the Qi of vitality to nourish his physical body, he'll only need to rest for 3 to 5 days at most, even if he doesn't recover instantly. However, the Crown Prince's condition now is that his soul is already riddled with cracks, and the power of the dragon and phoenix souls is encroaching on him. His soul has been torn and reassembled before shattering again after it's reassembled. This has increased the danger and difficulty by more than 100 times. If it hadn't been for the previous ordeal, everything would have been fine." Yin Yang sighed and said, "To put it bluntly, it's a great blessing that the Fox Crown Prince can still have this opportunity of mine now. If it wasn't for my master coming out to train, and staying away from the outside world, and giving me more protective items, if it wasn't for someone asking me to be loyal, and the Fox Emperor being the key to my mission, otherwise." Yin Yang had been nagging for a long time. But he did not know that the Fox Empress was not listening to the rest of his words. The Fox Empress' mind was buzzing. Choice. A difficult choice. Was it a son or a husband? The Fox Empress knew very well why Yin Yang had been nagging for so long. When the time came, such a choice would definitely appear. When the time came, she would have to make this cruel choice. If she wanted her son to live safely, she would have to sacrifice her husband. At the very least, he would have to be severely injured and on the brink of death. On the other hand, if she did not want her husband to pay the price, she would not save him. She would just watch her son die. What kind of bloody choice was that? The Fox Empress almost wanted to roar at the sky, asking a weak lady like me to make such a cruel choice. Are you forcing me to my death? Or are you playing me to death? Oh my God! The Fox Emperor was calm. With a wave of his hand he said, "What choice is there? There's no need to worry. I've enjoyed my demonic life for tens of thousands of years. But in recent years, I've been repeatedly betrayed. My heart has long grown cold. If I can't survive this ordeal, it's fate. No matter how long I live in this world, I'll only be at this height now. My son, on the other hand, has a limitless future. Needless to say, even if the worst-case scenario happens, the first choice is my son. It can only be my son. This is the conclusion. There's no need for further discussion," he said softly with a calm expression. "The worst-case scenario might not necessarily happen. I'm confident that I can deal with all the dangers and difficulties. At most, I'll just have to sacrifice a little bit of my life and suffer some light injuries. After resting for a few days, I'll be fine. The so-called accident is just an excuse for not being able to do it perfectly. Leader Yin, you've generously given us the Qi of the Great Way, the Qi of life, and the Qi of reincarnation. It's already clear that fate is on our side. As long as we deal with it carefully and do our best, what reason would there be for an accident to happen?" He stood up and said, "Little brother Yin, you've been working hard during this period. Now that you're here, you can have a good rest. I'll make arrangements for this matter. One day later we'll start." As he said, he shouted, "I know that you're a cautious person. Why don't you just stay in this secret room and rest? Even if the Demon Emperor comes personally, he won't be able to enter this secret room." He reached out to support the Fox Empress, intending to leave with her. Unexpectedly, the Fox Empress was trembling all over. Her petite body seemed to have gone limp on the Fox Emperor's arm. Being supported by the Fox Emperor, she actually started crying. However, the Fox Empress' tone was unusually weak as she said, "Leader Yin, do you have any other way that can satisfy both sides?" Yin Yang shook his head and said in a low voice, "The Fox Emperor and the Fox Empress are deeply in love. Yin Yang is deeply moved, but there's a limit to one's strength. I've already done my best to set up the 3 formations. I don't have any more energy left. If the Fox Empress wants more, it's truly beyond my ability." The Fox Empress' expression grew paler. With her status and experience, how could she not know that Yin Yang was speaking the truth? It was already a great blessing that her son had obtained the peerless treasure that the 5 sects had not been able to gather since the beginning of time, when he was on the brink of death. Yet she was asking for more. It was truly out of line. The Fox Emperor frowned and said, "The decision has been made. There's no need to ask for more. That's it." As he spoke, he helped the Fox Empress out. However, they had only taken a few steps when they heard the Fox Empress wailing loudly, crying, "I'm done, I'm done." The Fox Emperor's angry roar could be heard. "Nonsense. Shut up. My son has obtained such a rare opportunity and is about to be reborn. What nonsense are you spouting?" Then with a flash, he vanished with the Fox Empress. The voice was unyielding and stern, but Yin Yang could hear a tinge of gentleness in it, an inexplicable sense of being touched. From what the Fox Guards could hear, it had been many years since His Majesty had been so domineering in front of the Empress. "Your Majesty, this is as far as I can help you. I'll feel bad if I help you fake it further," Yin Yang thought to himself. "The rest, I'll leave it to you to act." Sigh. As the saying went, it was better to believe that there were ghosts in this world than to believe a man's mouth. Yin Yang and the Fox Emperor had teamed up to deceive a kind mother's heart. The power of their verbal assault was frightening indeed. That night, the Fox Emperor and the Fox Empress argued until late into the night, almost for the entire night. In the end, it seemed like the couple had stopped arguing, but the Fox Empress began to sob. The Fox Emperor seemed to have lost his composure as he chided loudly. "What are you crying for? When there was no hope for our son, you cried and threw a tantrum. Now that there's hope, why are you crying and throwing a tantrum? Are you crying because you're certain that I'm going to die? Don't cry, will you? Aren't you afraid that you'll bring me bad luck? I've already said that unless there's a huge accident, I won't die so easily. Isn't it worth it to fight for our son? I've been fighting against the heavens for my entire life, and I've survived so many perilous situations. Are you still worried about me? You want to take me in with this little setback? What a joke. Why don't you think about it further? What was Yuer's oracle written back then? Today he's not going to die. He's going to receive the Qi of vitality, the Qi of Tao, the Qi of reincarnation, and the protection of the three-sex rare Qi. The road to becoming a saint is paved, and there will be no more bottlenecks to speak of. What a rare opportunity this is. Even the starry skies level, which no one has ever touched since the beginning of time in this world, might not be so far away. For this opportunity, even if I really die, won't it be worth it? You're not saying that you're happy for your son's future, but you're crying nonstop. What is this? If my son can become the strongest in the starry sky, even if I die now, I'll be happy and honored, let alone take a risk. The Fox Emperor was passionate. The Fox Empress was still crying. But I don't want you to die. Nine-tailed white, you're so cruel. You only think about your son, your future, your future. Have you ever thought about me? If you die, what do you want me to do? The Fox Emperor said anxiously. Can't you be a little more reasonable? Earlier, when there was no other way, you kept trying to kill me. You wanted nothing more than to kill me with your own hands. Now that there's a way, you're crying like a baby. Don't you want to save your son? The Fox Empress cried loudly. I want to save my son, but I'm even more unwilling to let you die. She threw herself into the Fox Emperor's arms, heartbroken. This time, you're taking too big of a risk. Abai, why don't we have another one? The Fox Emperor did not know whether to laugh or cry. You're also the empress of a clan. How can your words and actions be so confusing? The Fox Empress cried and threw a tantrum. I'm confusing, I'm unreasonable. No matter what, I won't let you die. The Fox Emperor hugged his wife tightly and sighed softly, but his voice was resolute. Yuer is our only bloodline. No matter what, I don't want Yuer to die. It was like this in the past. It's like this now. And I hope it will be like this in the future. It's not because of his divination, but because he's our son. Do you understand? His voice was slow, but it was resolute. After saying that, he pushed the Fox Empress away and turned around. Hurry up and rest. We'll take action tomorrow morning. This matter cannot be delayed. The more we delay, the more dangerous it will be. The Fox Empress hugged him tightly from behind and said sorrowfully, Brother Bai, if tonight is the last night. Are you not going to accompany me this night? The Fox Emperor shuddered and said gently, I'll go and make arrangements for tomorrow's matter. Once I'm done, I'll come back immediately to accompany you. They finally went out. As soon as they went out, the Fox Emperor's solemn expression disappeared and was replaced with joy. He even secretly made a funny face. His whole body felt refreshed. This life of mine, nine-tailed white, should be considered complete. Hee. The two Fox clan great sages who were waiting for the Fox Emperor and the Fox Empress in the hall worriedly suddenly saw the Fox Emperor's funny face. They were both stunned for a long time. Their mouths were open, but they couldn't say a word for a long time. The expression on his face was extremely strange. The Fox Emperor coughed, and his expression became calm again. His voice became unusually heavy. Come here. Let's discuss tomorrow's matter. Gather all the great sages. I have important instructions. From the room behind him, the Fox Empress's anguished cries could be heard. The two great sages suddenly had an extremely strange feeling. They opened their mouths and nodded in a daze. Like idiots, they received a stern and warning look from the Fox Emperor. Yes, yes. The two great sages nodded repeatedly like chickens pecking at grains. Both of them were overwhelmed with shock. I saw how our emperor lost his composure. Will I be silenced? In the hall, the Fox Empress hid behind the screen and listened carefully to the Fox Emperor's arrangements. Indeed, as the Fox Emperor said, the foundation of this rescue work was extremely stable. As long as there were no accidents during the rescue process, success was expected. And the so-called accidents were just mistakes made due to insufficient preparation or carelessness. As long as they were careful enough, they could avoid accidents to the greatest extent. Tomorrow, completely seal off the mansion. All 24 great sages will participate in this operation. The rest of you will be responsible for protecting the outside. You must ensure that nothing goes wrong. This will be the future hope of our Fox clan. If everything goes smoothly, naturally there will be no problems. But if anything really happens, if I am not around in the future, all of you must assist the Crown Prince well. Our nine-tailed clan will not allow any internal strife. If anything happens to me, the 9 elders will immediately be promoted to mandate ministers and form the mandate cabinet. All matters will be discussed and decided with the Empress. The Empress will is my will. All of you must remember this. If nothing happens to me, what I said today would be a joke. Don't mind me, haha. The Fox Emperor's hearty laughter could be heard. When the Fox Empress heard it, she felt as if her heart was being cut by a knife. She could not control herself. I have been too willful all these years. I have let Brother Bai down. Brother Bai is so good to me. But I always throw a tantrum at him. May the heavens bless me. If we can get through this safely, I will definitely be obedient to Brother Bai in the future. I will definitely be a good wife to Brother Bai that all the demon clans will envy. As she thought about it, she secretly shed tears. At that moment, she only felt that her intestines were in knots. The heavens gave me such an outstanding and caring husband, but I did not cherish him. I pray that the heavens will give me another chance. The Fox Empress prayed earnestly. However, for some reason, she kept imagining that after tomorrow, her husband would unfortunately pass away, and she would be lonely and destitute for the rest of her life. She could not help but feel sad and uneasy. All the saint monarchs of the Fox clan had extremely solemn expressions, and their expressions were indescribably sorrowful. It was as if a heavy mountain was pressing down on their hearts. They knew that His Majesty was really going all out for the sake of the Crown Prince this time. Only the 2 holy lords who had seen the Fox Emperor's grimacing face wore an odd expression, but they dared not show it. They only lowered their heads and coughed occasionally. It looks like I've really seen something I shouldn't have. I pray that the heavens will give us another chance. Don't kill me to silence me. The 2 holy lords prayed earnestly in their hearts. However, for some reason, the image of them passing away the next day as expected, their souls would be destroyed, and they would be doomed eternally. The next morning, Yun Yang, who had rejuvenated himself, waited quietly in the secret chamber. After a long time, he saw the Fox Emperor and his wife walking over slowly. The Fox Emperor was in high spirits while the Fox Empress' eyes were red and swollen. At a place where the Fox Empress could not see, Yun Yang shot the Fox Emperor a look. Your Majesty is amazing. The Fox Emperor returned a look. Ha ha ha. Yun Yang's eyes darted back. How are you going to thank me then? The Fox Emperor rolled his eyes. Your Majesty must have been very happy last night. Yun Yang's gaze was mocking. Rascal. The Fox Emperor was speechless. A smug smile hung on his face. It's about time. Let's begin. The Fox Emperor looked calm. The Fox Empress suddenly screamed, Wait! Empress! The Fox Emperor called out sternly. It was only a moment, but the Fox Empress's face was already wet with tears as she glared at him stubbornly. The Fox Emperor's voice was still harsh. Empress, do you know that you are also an indispensable part of this plan? Are you trying to affect the treatment of your son by being so distracted now? Or are you trying to harm me? Or are you trying to make everyone die with you? Now that things have come to this, do you still want to act willfully? I'll give you the last 15 minutes to calm yourself down. I don't care if you've calmed down after the 15 minutes. We will begin immediately. Set up the formation. The Fox Emperor hollered, signaling for Yin Yang to begin. Yin Yang was already prepared. With a flick of his sleeves, the ethereal amethysts that were placed on the ground suddenly flew up and turned into rays of light, filling the entire secret chamber in an instant. The Fox Empress was still sobbing, but she was forcefully controlling her emotions, swallowing her breath drop by drop. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but her breathing was gradually calming down. Looking at the Fox Emperor's stalwart silhouette in front of her, her gaze was infatuated. Brother Bai, if you go when our son truly takes over the Fox clan, I'll go with you. As she thought about it, her gaze grew determined. After a quarter of an hour, the treatment began. The first step was to construct the soul sealing formation with the ethereal amethysts. Yin Yang had been accumulating for a long time, and the formation was cast in an instant. The Fox Emperor followed suit, sealing off the entire secret chamber with the heaven and earth cage. The first step was a success. The second step was to set up the heaven sealing formation with the supreme grade spiritual jade, concealing the heavens will with the supreme grade spiritual jade. Yin Yang was also well prepared and successfully completed it. The Fox Emperor followed suit, maintaining the heaven sealing formation's operation with the same method. The second step was a success. The third step was to infuse the Saint Monarch's formidable demonic energy into the ethereal amethysts, causing them to melt into pure energy at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, the three-layered sealing space, including the heaven and earth cage's power, became the world's most abundant source of spiritual energy. The third step was complete. Yin Yang hollered, Fox Empress. Before his words echoed in the air, his right hand was already stretched out. The Fox Empress gritted her teeth and broke the mystical membrane on his wrist, guiding the chi of vitality hidden within it over perfectly. She then slapped her hand on her son's body. She slowly channeled her cultivation into it. The fourth step was perfect. Then came the unprecedentedly grand fifth step. A total of 16 Saint Monarchs, including the Fox Emperor, exerted their strength at the same time. The bottle that contained the soul shattered with a pop, and the faint energy of the soul seeped out bit by bit. The stabilizing force formed by the 16 Saint Monarchs slowly guided the energy of the soul into the air. It was at this moment that all the Saint Monarchs showed signs of wavering in their state of mind. An extremely pure aura of the Great Tao suddenly appeared in front of the Fox Emperor. The Fox Empress had been guiding the chi of vitality with all her might, so that it could completely fuse with the Fox Crown Prince's physical body. Now, she had to divert a portion of her attention to bite her lip and stare fixedly at the chi of Tao. This was the most crucial moment of the battle. As long as a Saint Monarch harbored greedy thoughts, it would be an accident, a hidden danger. However, as soon as the chi of Tao appeared, the Fox Emperor hollered coldly, "Stay calm." Then he reached out with his hand and activated more than half of his power. He forcefully guided the purple chi of the Great Path toward Crown Prince Fox's soul. However, the guiding speed was abnormally slow. After a breath's time, the chi of Tao had only moved a foot forward in midair. Strictly speaking, guiding an aura, especially a special aura, into a specific target would normally take tens to hundreds of breaths' time. The Fox Emperor only needed a breath's time to guide the chi of Tao to a distance of a foot. With his rare cultivation level, he would only need about 10 breaths' time to guide it to the Fox Crown Prince's side. However, everyone present was a Saint Monarch pinnacle expert. How could they not know the use of the chi of Tao? Furthermore, at this moment, it was a special atmosphere where they could obtain anything as long as they made a move. Not to mention 10 breaths' time. Even a breath's time was enough for the group of Saint Monarchs to snatch it. When the Fox Empress saw this, she felt as though her heart was about to jump out of her mouth. She seemed to be able to see the eyes of all the Saint Monarchs in this place shining with a luster of desire. There were even a few Saint Monarchs who secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva as their eyes glazed over. This scene only existed in her imagination, but it was the scene that terrified the Fox Empress the most. Once it came true, the Fox Empress nearly fainted. Once something went wrong, not only would her son not wake up, even her husband would die with him. This was an outcome that the Fox Empress did not wish to see. nor could she bear. The Fox Emperor was already giving it his all. He was releasing his power to the limit, striving to complete the guiding of the Qi of Tao as soon as possible. However, white fog was emitting from his body, nearly covering his entire body. Only his flushed face and eyes that looked as though they were about to pop out of their sockets were filled with malevolence. Blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth, making him look even more shocking and soul-stirring. The Fox Empress' mind raced. She increasingly felt that the eyes of the saint monarchs present were already flickering. This omen was far from good. But why was the Qi of Tao moving so slowly? The anxiety in the Fox Empress' heart was indescribable, her state of mind close to breaking down. Even though she knew that she could not lose her composure. If she did, it would be the same as announcing the end of the treatment. However, there could be greedy people who would snatch the Qi of Tao away from her at any time, and she was helpless to stop them. The torment was not something that could be described with words. When she saw the crimson blood trickling down the corner of her husband's mouth, the Fox Empress' heart shattered into a million pieces. She was utterly disheartened. It was over. This was a sign that her husband was slowly losing his strength. At least, he could no longer afford to be distracted. This would definitely make the covetous people even more tempted. She seemed to already feel the aura of greed spreading. It was at this moment that a clear voice rang out. The Qi of Tao is a unique aura that transcends beyond heaven's path. It is the most neutral and peaceful. Cultivators of our generation, embarking on the path of cultivation, prioritize a neutral and peaceful temperament. The rise of greed will forever be forsaken by Tao. A momentary gain is beneficial to the present, but it is not wise to destroy one's Tao future for this momentary gain. The source of this clear voice was none other than Yin Yang. He spoke slowly. All of you lords are cultivation experts who have spent your entire lives comprehending Tao. It's impossible that you don't understand, or don't understand this simple logic. Every cultivator has their own Tao. It's the same for demons, it's the same for humans, it's the same for all living beings in this world. It's all within the unseen world, waiting for you to claim it with your own hands. If you have no Tao, then, even if you can obtain thousands of Qi of Tao, you can't escape death. Once the situation is lost, how can you talk about advancing in Tao? Every word was like the evening drum and morning bell. In spite of this, more blood flowed from the corner of the Fox Emperor's mouth. The Fox Empress' grateful gaze was focused on Yin Yang. She did not know that the lords were cursing inwardly. Who doesn't know this? Do we need you to remind us? The lords who had been arranged to exude an unfriendly aura wanted to vomit blood to vent their frustrations. This fellow really knows how to take advantage of the situation. I wanted to say these words, but this fellow beat me to it. Great. Now the Fox Empress' gratitude is all his. Forget it. The key is that the Fox Empress might bear a grudge against me in the future. How good can I be then? After Yin Yang's words, the atmosphere gradually calmed down. The Fox Empress breathed a sigh of relief subconsciously and shifted all of her mental energy back to the Fox Crown Prince, concentrating on sending the Qi of Vitality into her son's body. After much effort, she finally completed the transfer of the Qi of Vitality, but she felt like she was about to collapse. Her head was ringing. She had scared herself to death. It was then that Yin Yang hollered, "Reincarnation!" Before his words echoed in the air, the Qi of reincarnation materialized. In the blink of an eye, it extended in front of the demon saints, transforming into thousands of different forms. The netherworld, the cycle of reincarnation and rebirth, a road, a river, a city, a high platform, 18 levels of hell. Everything was there. At the very top, an illusory bridge that resembled a rainbow appeared before their eyes. It was also at this delicate moment that the Qi of Tao had completely integrated into the Fox Crown Prince's soul. The timing was impeccable and flawless. Then, a tiny white fox the size of a fingernail appeared in midair. Its eyes were closed as it floated over slowly. It was Prince Fox's intrinsic soul essence. However, his intrinsic soul essence was complete and flawless. There weren't any cracks or flaws, and it was even overflowing with the light of the great Tao. It was obvious that the initial damage to his soul had been completely healed. The Fox Emperor hollered softly, continuing to seal the void. At the same time, the power of his soul left his body to support the left arm of his son's soul. Carrying the tiny white fox, he walked towards the other end of the rainbow bridge. Fox Empress. Yun Yang's heart skipped a beat as he hurriedly called out to her. Because at that moment, the Fox Empress, who should not have made any mistakes, was in a daze for a moment. She had just relaxed her mind due to extreme anxiety and worry, and when she suddenly saw her son's soul in perfect condition, she could not react immediately. The reincarnation was not dependent on the strength of the soul. It had to be facilitated by the combined power of the parents' souls. The Fox Emperor alone could not separate the little white fox from reincarnation completely. Looking at the rainbow bridge, the Fox Empress could not arrive in time. The tiny white fox looked like it was about to fall. Following that, the Fox Emperor grunted. Blood spilled from the corner of his mouth again. This time, it was a special blood that glowed with a faint golden light. His eyes were fixed on his wife, so anxious that his heart was about to explode, but he could not call out to her. It was over, it was over. His act had turned into reality, and he had scared his wife. Yin Yang saw that the Fox Empress seemed to be stunned. With the most unexpected crisis looming, it was already too late to call out to the Fox Empress. He made up his mind and reacted immediately. He detached the power of his soul from his body and imitated the Fox Empress' power, going to the right side of the Fox Crown Prince's soul at lightning speed. He supported the tiny white fox and walked on the rainbow bridge. Just a little bit more, and the little white fox would have been annihilated on the rainbow bridge, wasting all their efforts. The moment they stepped on the bridge, the eyes of the little white fox that had been shut opened abruptly. Looking at Yun Yang, and then at the Fox Emperor, its gaze was filled with admiration. It was only then that the Fox Empress was jolted awake. The power of her soul left her body and rushed to the right side of her son's soul, taking over Yin Yang's support of the little white fox's soul. But that little white fox was very reluctant to stop and not go. It stood still on the bridge, allowing the Fox Emperor and the Fox Empress to pull it. Yun Yang wanted to return, but seeing that it would be difficult to end the situation if he did not advance or retreat, he could only go forward and pull the little white fox forward with the Fox Empress. Only then did the little white fox move slowly. This peculiar scene that was beyond the demon's knowledge lasted for a few breaths. When the little white fox finally walked across the rainbow bridge, it disappeared with a soft whooshing sound, returning to its original body. The chest of the Fox Crown Prince's initially stiff body rose and fell slightly. The next moment, the souls of the Fox Emperor, Fox Empress, and Yun Yang returned to their original positions at the same time. Just as he opened his eyes, the Fox Emperor spat 3 mouthfuls of golden blood. He looked at the Fox Empress with his eyes wide open, pointing at her with a trembling finger, but he did not speak for a long time. His eyes rolled back and he fainted. The Fox Monarch had never expected that a great show that he had been so confident in would fail at the very last moment, when it was most unlikely for an accident to occur, would actually fail. He had actually frightened his Empress to the point that she had lost her mind, resulting in a mishap at the last moment. His injury this time was real. It was definitely not a fake. For a powerhouse at the pinnacle of this world like him, he had an unimaginable regenerative ability. Furthermore, the 9-tailed fox had limitless regenerative abilities, so vomiting a few liters of blood was nothing to him. However, what he had vomited just now was the heart's blood that originated from his life force. Although his current condition was not as serious as he had said, it was not something that could be recovered in a day or two. This act was self-defeating in the end. It was karma, but it had nothing to do with anyone. The Fox Empress watched her husband spit blood, and was at a loss for a moment. She then cried out, regret written all over her face as she blamed herself. "It's my fault, it's all my fault, it's all my fault." Her tears fell like pearls from a broken necklace. Yun Yang was the one who suffered the least injuries among the 3. His reflexes were even faster as he grabbed the Fox Emperor's wrist and injected his own energy. With a flip of his hand, a wave of purple energy flowed in, and he heaved a long sigh of relief. "Thank goodness," the Fox Empress asked anxiously. "How is it?" Yin Yang heaved a sigh of relief. Don't worry, Your Highness. His Majesty's life force is only slightly damaged. It's nothing serious. He'll recover after some rest. The Fox Empress cried tears of joy. It was then that the Fox Crown Prince, the nine-tailed jade, who was breathing softly on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes. His pure and flawless gaze was like a newborn baby's as he murmured, "Mother." The Fox Empress shuddered as hot tears streamed down her cheeks. She hugged her son and sobbed uncontrollably. There was self-reproach, ecstasy and guilt. The nine-tailed jade, who was in his mother's embrace, turned to look at Yin Yang with his pure gaze. He was hesitant, as if he did not know what to call him. It was Yin Yang who had pulled him up at the most crucial moment and helped him to walk the rainbow bridge. In the nine-tailed jade's heart, he was like his mother. However, he already had a mother and Yin Yang was a male. This inevitably made the crown prince of the Fox clan feel at a loss. In spite of this, the kindness in his eyes was deeply rooted and came from the bottom of his heart. Yin Yang responded with a smile, but he was speechless inwardly. What the F***ck is going on? Your father doesn't care for this cheap son. In fact, even he did not expect that the most unexpected part of the entire plan would happen. The Fox Empress could actually lose control of the situation, for a moment, due to her nervousness. In the end, he was the one who interfered, causing him to seem to have a huge advantage in terms of seniority. But this advantage, I really don't want it. I don't want a fox son no matter what. It was then that the Fox Emperor slowly woke up. The rest of the lords were bewildered by the situation before them, not knowing how to deal with this complicated situation. They looked at the Fox Emperor, the Fox Empress, the Crown Prince, and then at Yin Yang with inexplicable gazes. The Fox Emperor woke up and stared straight at the Fox Empress. Although he was committing suicide, the accident was too F***ing unexpected. If Yin Yang had not interfered so decisively, he would have been committing suicide by committing suicide. The Fox Empress looked at the Fox Emperor pleadingly and guiltily. The Fox Emperor sighed and sucked in a deep breath, saying, "Heaven has taken pity on us. Our family is finally safe." The lords congratulated him in unison. The Fox Emperor was a pinnacle expert in this world after all. With a slight circulation of his inner energy, his condition improved considerably. He turned to look at Yin Yang, who was also looking back at the Fox Emperor with a conflicted expression. It was obvious that these two fellows, who were the instigators of the incident, were speechless. Acting required talent, timing and cooperation, but more importantly luck. Accidents were things that were beyond one's expectations. The cycle of karma, retribution. After a long time, the Fox Emperor spoke softly. "Brother Yin, the nine-tailed white fox is unable to repay your kindness. I wish to swear an oath of blood with Brother Yin, to be sworn brothers in life and death. Please don't reject me, Brother Yin." Yin Yang was tongue-tied. Me. All the great sages were dumbfounded when they heard this. Even the Fox Empress lifted her head in shock. The Fox Emperor chuckled bitterly. "This is the only way now." Yin Yang said hesitantly, "There's really no need to do this." The Fox Emperor rolled his eyes and snorted. "It was you and I who helped you onto the Rainbow Bridge at the very last moment. It's the same as giving birth to him again. If you don't become my blood brother, do you want me to take you into my harem?" As he spoke, he glared at the Fox Empress. The Fox Empress lowered her head in shame. Yin Yang's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. "Take me into your harem? You're dreaming. I haven't even built my own harem yet." Without another word, Yin Yang stood up at once and bowed deeply. "Big brother, please accept this young brother's bow." The corners of the Fox Emperor's lips twitched. "Second brother, please rise." The Crown Prince, the nine-tailed white fox, knew how to address him now. She called out affectionately, "Second uncle." Yin Yang clenched his teeth. Oh my sigh. To be called uncle by a being who was at least a few thousand years older than him, and the other party had addressed him with genuine affection and admiration, was an indescribable feeling to Yin Yang. Especially when the other party had treated him as his mother. Yin Yang felt that this was truly Chapter 1325. Let's not talk about the fact that I impulsively posted all the drafts yesterday. Today was Mother's Day. I went out with my parents and my in-laws for the whole day. When I came back at night, I drank some wine. I didn't drink too much, but I was a bit dizzy. I actually chatted with the 4 old people until 9:30 at night. I'm the one who forgot about the update. I apologize to everyone for that. However, I was also happy to see that the 4 old people were very happy. They were actually looking forward to me chatting with them. I could feel that. However, due to the limitations of my work, I didn't have much time to chat with them all year round. Except for the Spring Festival, I didn't have time to chat with them. When I celebrated my birthday, I just had a meal, and then I had to hurry back to write. Being a writer seemed to be a free job. If you wanted to play, you basically had to have a holiday every day. However, if you wanted to be successful, you really had to work all year round. Occasionally, you would have to attend some social activities, but your soul would wander away. That was why I admired the 3rd young master the most. I couldn't be compared to him when he kept updating. His seamless connection was incomparable. That required a lot of self-discipline. It was hard for a person like me to do that. I could be emotional and be happy for half a month, but I could also be depressed for a month or 2. Once when I was writing Qingyan, I was having dinner with my comrades. I was thinking, should Yi Xiao kill this person or not? Should I kill him or not? How can I develop if I kill him? How can I develop if I don't kill him? One of my comrades suddenly asked me, "Won't your sister-in-law give you trouble when you get home tonight?" Every time I get home late, I get beaten up. What do? I said, "Kill him." That shocked everyone. Back to the topic. I am asking for leave tonight. Please approve. Good night, everybody. M. Chapter 1326. No matter how Yin Yang grumbled inwardly, he was determined to be the elder now. Vertex X23 US had called him second uncle, and he had agreed to it as well. Sigh. Yin Yang was still amused. This fox crown prince, 9-tailed jade, should be a few thousand years old, right? His age could be considered an old ancestor in the human world, but he was calling him uncle now. It felt rather strange. Good boy. Yin Yang felt his teeth ache when he uttered the word while the corners of the fox crown prince, 9-tailed jade's lips twitched. This is a greeting gift from your second uncle. Yin Yang was helpless as well. I, a 20-year-old lad, have become the second uncle of a demon that's thousands of years old, but I can't just not give him a greeting gift. With a wave of his hand, a stream of purple chi landed on 9-tailed jade's head. Second brother. The fox emperor was shocked. You mustn't. It's nothing. Yin Yang smiled kindly. We're all family. The fox emperor looked at 9-tailed jade seriously. Quickly kowtow to your second uncle. The fox empress was overjoyed as well. Both of them were knowledgeable. How could they not see that Yin Yang had actually given them a stream of primordial purple chi? Yin Yang helped the kowtowing fox crown prince up with a smile and said, "With this primordial purple chi protecting me, no matter what kind of danger I encounter, I can guarantee that you won't die once." The fox empress' eyes were filled with gratitude. This was what she had been most worried about after the crisis her son had encountered. Now Yin Yang's gift had dispelled all her worries. Ha ha ha. The fox emperor laughed heartily. Second brother, I don't have anything to give you, and I don't have anything of equivalent value to give you for what you've done before. When we return to the clan, I'll give you everything in my entire palace treasury. Yin Yang was overjoyed and said, I won't stand on ceremony then. How big was the treasury of the Fox Emperor's palace? How much good stuff was there? Yin Yang had no idea about these, but he knew that they were worth 100, or even 1,000 times more than what he had taken out. The chi of vitality and the chi of reincarnation. Emmy had only taken them out casually, and Yin Yang did not feel anything. However, the Fox Emperor's treasury could support Emmy's production of such gases. There should be tens of thousands of them. Yin Yang felt like he was going crazy with joy. How could he dare to be courteous? If he lost this courteous gesture, wouldn't he cry himself to death? The group of Fox Race Saint Monarchs were also very excited as they greeted in unison. Greetings to Second Master. You're welcome, everyone. The corners of Yin Yang's lips were twitching. Although suddenly becoming the second master of the Fox clan was a win-win situation for Yin Yang, he still found it hard to accept it being accomplished in such a manner. Also, why was it so King awkward to address him as second master? But no matter what, he had forgotten that it was supposed to be a foolproof plan with no accidents happening. But the Fox Empress, who was the least likely to have an accident, had suddenly dropped the ball without any signs. The Fox Emperor, who had committed suicide, had spat out his heart's blood and lost his life force. Yin Yang, who had also committed suicide, did not end up well either, receiving the title of second master of the Fox clan. Looking at all the demons of the Fox clan, all the Fox Sage Lords were able to follow the Fox Emperor and the Fox Empress here. Even in the face of a cultivation treasure like the Qi of the Great Tao, they did not have any ill intentions. Naturally, they were all their most trusted and reliable subordinates. This group of demons was originally filled with resentment and malice towards this newly promoted second master, this human brat. However, they had witnessed Yin Yang generously giving rare treasures like the Qi of Tao, the Qi of Reincarnation, and the Qi of Vitality to save the Fox Crown Prince. It was equivalent to adding a few more layers of protection to the Fox Crown Prince's identity as the future leader of the demon race that was already deeply rooted in the hearts of the fox demons. Naturally, their resentment was wiped away, and they were only filled with gratitude. The Fox Empress only felt gratitude towards Yin Yang. Yin Yang had first set up the plan to save the nine-tailed jade with the treasures of the three sects, then reacted swiftly and lent a helping hand when she was in grave danger, saving the Fox Emperor and his son. When the Fox Emperor was heavily injured and vomiting blood, the purple qi that Yin Yang had injected into the Fox Emperor's body had stabilized the Fox Emperor's injuries. Otherwise, the Fox Emperor's injuries would not just be a slight loss of life force. He would only need to recuperate for a period of time. Moreover, Yin Yang had actually gifted her son a wisp of primordial purple qi. To the Fox Empress, she could give anything to Yin Yang. Even if she were to give the entire palace to Yin Yang, she would feel that it was not enough. The Fox Crown Prince, the nine-tailed jade, was genuinely affectionate towards her second uncle. In fact, Yin Yang's position was not inferior to the Fox Emperor and the Fox Empress in Crown Prince Ding's eyes. The only one who did not look worried was the Fox Emperor. He seemed to be a little reluctant to acknowledge Yin Yang as his sworn brother, but it was only due to the circumstances. However, from the smile in his eyes, it was not difficult to tell that he was very satisfied with the outcome of the entire matter. Very satisfied too. That night, the Fox Emperor held a banquet. This is the Fox clan's top secret. The Fox Emperor's words had decided that this matter would not be leaked. After drinking, "Second brother, what kind of aura did you send in?" asked the Fox Emperor. "It's just an ordinary qi of vitality." Yin Yang smiled. "It can only ensure that Big Brother doesn't leave behind any future problems. It's not of much use anymore." Yin Yang's words were polite and elegant, but those who knew their stuff would probably want to beat him up if they heard it. The Fox Emperor's injury today was due to the backlash from the failure in constructing the reincarnation passage. It was almost like heaven's punishment, so how could it be ordinary? A strange qi that could eliminate all latent problems was labeled as ordinary and useless. Anyone would be displeased. Ha 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 ha. The Fox Emperor, who was directly involved, guffawed instead. The Fox Empress and the Crown Prince had already gone to rest, leaving the space for the two brothers who had become sworn brothers due to fate. "Do you know why I want to be sworn brothers with you?" The Fox Emperor's laughter faded away immediately. Yin Yang replied faintly, "Big Brother is the ruler of a clan. What you think and think naturally has a reason. There must be a reason why you've made the decision to become sworn brothers with a human. But I don't have the mood to guess. What's the use of thinking about it when it's already a fact?" He smiled faintly. Not only does Big Brother have his considerations, this young brother naturally has his reasons for agreeing as well. The Fox Emperor laughed. "You're open-minded, wise brother. But the main reason why I'm sworn brothers with you is because of you." Yin Yang broke into a sweat. Me. Isn't Big Brother thinking too highly of me? With a wave of his hand, the Fox Emperor sealed the sealed space with his deific consciousness once more. Only then did he say in a low voice, Brother Yin, I've always had a feeling that the demon race has actually been walking the wrong path. They're treading on the wrong path, going further and further astray. Walking the wrong path. Treading on the wrong path. That's right. In the long years of war with the human race, the demon race seems to be strong and has the upper hand in the battle. But the demon race has never produced a galactic master since the beginning of time. The overall ability of the human race is weaker than that of the demon race, but most of the known galactic masters are from the human race. This itself has proven the advantages and disadvantages of the demon race and the human race. Although the demon race has the advantage of innate talent, fast cultivation speed, and strong ability, when it comes to being the true ruler of all living beings, the world's providence favors humans. Therefore, the demon race's path must be wrong. The Fox Emperor's expression was solemn. Yin Yang pondered with a frown and did not reply. My theory is actually not rare among the demon race. I'll just say one thing. The Fox Emperor smiled faintly. Why do you think the demon race transforms? Transforms? That's right, transforms. The Fox Emperor said. Don't the demon race transforms into a humanoid form? Why do you think so? Yin Yang had never considered the reason behind this question, so he could not help asking, why? There's no other reason. It's because the humanoid form is the most suitable body for cultivation. The demon race transforms into a humanoid form. There's a natural disdain towards the existence of their original form, and they don't have their own cultural heritage either. They have to imitate and learn from humans in everything. To the demon race, it's not only a sad thing, it's also a terrifying thing. The Fox Emperor's words seemed to be biased. The demon race has its own unique innate talent. Each race has its own unique racial trait, such as the dragon race's breath, the phoenix race's nirvana, the cat race's 9 revolutions of fate, and the noble's immortality. Aren't they all unique traits that the human race doesn't possess? Yin Yang retorted. What you said is true, but it's only one-sided. The demon race's heritage, if it's built entirely on the race's unique innate talent, the path ahead will only become more and more deviated. To truly walk on the path of Tao, the most crucial shackle is to shed the demonic form and become a human entirely. Only then is it possible. However, the demon race doesn't have any direction to follow in this regard. The Fox Emperor sighed softly. This is also one of the main reasons why the demon race intends to enter the bound of universe. We need such a path. However, even if we really conquer the bound of universe and truly rise above the human race, it'll be difficult for us to walk out of this path. The Fox Emperor said faintly, if we conquer the bound of universe, the human race may become the demon race's slaves and food. It can greatly improve the demon race's living conditions, but it won't help us advance to a higher cultivation level. Moreover, with the expansion of our territory, the unprecedented abundance of food, and the continuous reduction of our opponents, the demon race will soon overflow. In the end, the entire bound of universe will be destroyed. Yin Yang coughed and said, Big Brother, you're going a little overboard. It's not that the demon race doesn't have any knowledgeable people. They won't be able to see this prospect. How can the future be determined with just a few words? It's not overboard at all. If the human race can maintain the upper hand and guard the passage between the human and demon realm, only then will the demon race restrain themselves and recuperate. Only then will there be room for maneuver. However, if the demon race wins, based on the teachings of the demon race since they were born, it's impossible for them to let the human race go. Do you know why I sent the entire Fox clan to the Blood Soul Mountain? Why I can communicate with Hibuyu, Fan Yunbang, and the others? Is it because I really can't do anything to them? No, as long as I'm careful in my arrangements, plotting and paying a small price, there are plenty of opportunities to annihilate them. And with my unique talent, what is a small price to pay? The reason why I don't do anything is because once the Blood Soul Mountain is damaged, It will be the starting point of the demon race's annihilation, other than the human race's. At least from my point of view, once there's a final outcome, the demon race will definitely lose no matter what. Only by maintaining a delicate balance between the two races is the way to long-term peace, even if this balance is unusually terrifying and dangerous. The Fox Emperor said faintly. Before the rise of the Phoenix Emperor, and being recognized as the wisest of the demon race, the wisest of the demon race has always been the Fox clan. In terms of thinking about the future, there won't be any demon race that can think more than us, the Fox clan. However, the unfavorable speculations about the demon race are all restricted to the higher-ups of the Fox clan in secret. Not a single trace of them will be leaked out. Once this news spreads, the entire demon race will definitely be in chaos, and the hearts of the demon race will be shaken. For example, although the demon emperor will consider the truth of these speculations, and may even agree with them, but for the sake of the demon race as a whole, he will still insist on waging war against the human race. Only by using war as a medium to transfer the current crisis of the demon race to the human race can the demon race be stabilized for a while. After all, the theory of the demon race's eventual annihilation needs time to be proven, and it will only come true in the future. And the current situation of the demon race is already very short of time. Of course, many of the above are the discoveries of the seniors, but even more, including the most pessimistic speculations, are my own views. The Fox Emperor sighed softly and said meaningfully, "Originally, our demon race was united. Regardless of the final victory or defeat, everyone had no regrets. In fact, there was no harm in dying together in the end. But now, things are very different. The previous few demon emperors of the demon race were the ones who united the demon race, the ones who worked hard to rule the demon race. However, when it came to Long Yutian's generation, the demon emperors of the demon race have begun to diverge, especially the demon race of the Nine Lives demon cat race. The entire race has been wiped out. This is something that has never happened to the demon race for hundreds of millions of years. However, when it comes to our generation, such signs have begun to appear continuously. Even if we don't count the decline of the Nine Lives demon cat race, there are still 7 other races that have disappeared from the demon race's history forever." The Fox Emperor said, "Back then my ancestor, the nine-tailed fox, left a prophecy. If a demon emperor appears in the future, it will be the end of the demon race." Yun Yang mused. "So," the Fox Emperor said honestly, "my son has the bearing of a demon emperor and the decree of the demon race's leader. This is the first reason. Secondly, while brother's arrival has caused chaos among the demon race, it has also left an opportunity for the demon race. With today's cooperation, the relationship between you, me, and my son, I believe that the relationship between you and my Fox clan will grow closer and closer. In the future, our interactions will only grow closer and closer. What's beneficial to you is beneficial to our Fox clan, and even to the future of the entire demon clan." Yun Yang frowned in deep thought, his expression thoughtful and disbelief written all over his face. The Fox Emperor stared at Yun Yang for a good while before he asked, "I wonder what brother's opinion of the demon race?" The Fox Emperor's words were a huge blow to Yun Yang. With his intelligence, he knew that the Fox Emperor's question was not about his current opinion, but about the ultimate strategic goal. Firstly, I'm not the one making decisions yet. Secondly, the time isn't right yet. It's difficult for me to make a judgment now. My opinion is inevitably biased. Once it's biased, it's very likely that I'll think too highly of myself, and it'll be difficult to reach a consensus." Yun Yang said honestly, "At the end of the day, this is the key to the survival of the two races. I need time to consider it, even to take it one step at a time. The final outcome is still undetermined. It's difficult to put it into practice for now." This was the truth. If Yun Yang had spoken frankly, and even patted his chest as a guarantee, saying that he would guide the entire Fox clan to assimilate into the human race, and that the Fox clan would be fine even if the demon race was annihilated, the Fox Emperor might just slap Yun Yang into a pulp. "Then I'll wait for the day you can make the decision." The Fox Emperor laughed out loud and brushed this question aside. However, he knew very well that his words must have left a deep impression in Yun Yang's heart. All he needed was a suitable opportunity. Once it arrived, it would be the beginning of a new era for the demon race. Let's hope that you and I can still sit together and discuss the future like this in the future. The Fox Emperor's face was filled with kindness as he chuckled and said, "There's only one thing. Your nephew calls you second uncle from the bottom of his heart. You can't ignore this nephew of yours. After all, you brought him back to this world with your own hands." Yun Yang sighed dejectedly and nodded. No matter what, his contact with the Fox clan during this period of time had grown deeper. Even if the demon race were to be annihilated in the end, Yun Yang would try his best to mediate and try his best to preserve a sliver of the Fox Emperor's bloodline. At the very least, Yun Yang would try his best to protect the Fox Crown Prince. This was something that went without saying. The Fox Emperor was only joking now. The Fox Emperor knew this, and so did Yun Yang. What do you plan to do next? Do you have a concrete plan? The Fox Emperor asked. Now that their relationship had reached such a stage, there was basically nothing that they did not talk about. Yun Yang did not avoid the topic and said, "Now that I have Big Brother's help, I'm thinking of taking action within 2 days. After saving the cat ancestor, I'll leave the demonic realm immediately." The Fox Emperor frowned, contemplating the feasibility of the matter. "There's something that I have to say first." The Fox Emperor said word by word. "Don't have any misgivings about saving the 9 lives. If it doesn't work out, don't bother about the feline clan anymore. Don't even bother about the Saint Lords of the Fox clan. Prioritize your own safety and escape as soon as possible." "Yes," Yun Yang replied. He paused and said, "However, Big Brother, your people in Demon Peacock City now have to leave as soon as possible. I'm afraid that you'll be dragged into this mess." The Fox Emperor said faintly, "Of course. Tomorrow morning, your sister-in-law will leave with your nephew and the 8 Saint Lords. They'll meet up with me 50,000 miles away from here." "What about you?" The Fox Emperor chuckled and said, "On the surface, you'll be leaving the city with the other 14 Saint Lords and your sister-in-law. But in reality, you'll be waiting 20,000 miles away from Demon Peacock City. I'll accompany you out of the city first, and then come back to join in the rescue of the 9 lives. However, I won't act directly." The Demon Emperor looked at Yun Yang, his gaze warm. "It's not for anything else. If all of you are in a hopeless situation, I'll bring you away. Your safety is my top priority right now. I'm not just saying that." Yun Yang felt warm and said, "Big Brother, you don't have to get involved in this mess. It won't be good for the Fox clan." "It's nothing." The Fox Emperor's gaze was deep. "Yours recovery can only be kept a secret for a while. It can't be kept a secret for too long. Once this news gets out, it'll definitely cause a commotion. Perhaps the 9-tailed Fox clan will be the next 9 Lives Cat clan. Is there a need to worry so much? All in all, take care." Until Yun Yang left the Fox Emperor's palace, the Fox Emperor's extremely solemn gaze still lingered in his mind. He could not help thinking, "I've always believed that humans won't fail." If that was the case, where would the future of the demon race lie? There was a vast territory here that did not pale in comparison to the bound of universe, and it was completely unsuitable for humans to live in. Billions of demons lived here. Although they were of a different race, they were still living beings. Could it be that he really had to annihilate these billions of living beings? After this day, Yun Yang's deep-rooted desire to annihilate the demon race was loosened. For the next 3 days, the resourceful celestial wolf and the demon fox did not make any moves. The demon civilians who were used to these two stirring up trouble and creating big news actually felt unaccustomed to it. In spite of this, the demon imperial city was still in an uproar. Even though the higher-ups of the demon race had repeatedly ordered that the demon race was not allowed to kill each other, and that those who disobeyed would be severely punished. Who knew if this fellow beside him was real? What if he was the demon fox? This opportunity to rise to the top in a single bound did not come often. Although the officials had tried their best to stop it, Public opinion had already risen in recent days, based on the belief that I might be the main character of Providence, and that the law does not punish the masses. The number of demons who had died had once again exceeded 1,000,000. As for the Phoenix Emperor, he never returned to the Demon Imperial Palace after the incident with the Fox Emperor. Even the Saint Lords he had gathered to set up the heaven sealing formation had all disappeared, their whereabouts a mystery. Early in the morning of another day, the demon fox reappeared. This time, he had appeared 8,000 miles away from the Demon Imperial City. He was not seen through by the demons, but he had suddenly appeared and started to attack, killing more than 10 Saint Emperors and 3 to 4 Supreme Saints of the demon race consecutively. He then sped towards the south with a body full of wounds. Many of the demon experts were naturally unwilling to let him escape unscathed, so they began to surround and intercept him. It was a pity that after half a day of pursuit, there was nothing. The demon fox still managed to escape successfully. According to the usual practice, the demon fox would immediately disappear after escaping successfully. This time, however, it was only an hour before he was discovered once again, fleeing into a forest. However, the 3 Saint Lords who had rushed over after hearing the news had completely destroyed the entire forest, but they still could not find any trace of the demon fox. By noon, the demon fox was discovered once again. Although he looked like he was in a sorry state, he was still very agile. After a brief contact with the battle, he immediately disappeared into the nearby mountains. Then the demon fox appeared in a town slightly further away. This time, there were many innocent demons who were implicated, and the demon fox escaped once again. Even so, after a few consecutive battles, the demon fox's range of movement had basically been locked down. It was in this area. There was no way to escape. It was 7,000 to 10,000 miles away from the Demon Imperial City. Even if he ran further out, he would not be able to escape. As for charging in, it was even more difficult than ascending to the heavens. Because of this, the Saint Lords of the Demon Imperial City all rushed over. Countless demons were muttering. It seemed like the demon fox was doomed this time. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.